feet. Would you home with me? Would you in my house? Boom, 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 boom.
On a spectacular fall night in America's heartland, welcome from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Miller Park hosting its first championship series, and the rally towels are out. They are ready to roar here, one of the loudest venues in baseball. This National League Championship Series coverage on TBS is presented by the new Capital One Cash Card. It is Game 2 of a best-of-7 series. The Milwaukee Brewers and the St. Louis Cardinals. Milwaukee holding serve in their home field yesterday, and now lead this series 1-0. And hi, everybody. We welcome you from Wisconsin alongside Ron Darling and John Smoltz. I'm Brian Anderson. Great to have you with us. We saw a ton of offense yesterday. Boom, boom, boom was the right way to put it, because much to the chagrin of our pitchers here, there was a lot of offense. And these two teams, Ron, the Cardinals and the Brewers, symbolic of what they've done all year. They combined for 15 runs and 20 hits in Game 1.
And, you know, for the Brewers, it really was a coming-out party for their dynamic duo, their 1-2 punch. They were outstanding in yesterday's game. You can see their numbers here and the postseason. 37 times, if you include the postseason, both of these great players have hit a home run in the same game. Brewers' record in those games, 28-9, including 16 in a row. So the offense in the first game was just outstanding for the Brewers and their dynamic duo. But I think what's really important is that the St. Louis Cardinals are going to have to try to match it. This season, they led the National League in runs, but one of the biggest at-bats in yesterday's game, Albert Pujols, hit into a double play. 29 he hit into during the regular season. He and his teammates are going to have to score some runs to win this series.
Well, the Cardinals had the best offense in the National League during the regular season. Now, John Smoltz, pitchers beware. And I guess the question is, with Edwin Jackson tonight for St. Louis, with Sean Markham for the Milwaukee Brewers, what is your answer on the mound with these prolific hitters?
Well, first of all, they're very contrasting styles. I mean, for Sean Markham, he's a guy that doesn't know, you're not going to know what he's throwing. He likes to dink, he likes to pick, and he's not going to throw anything the same speed. Look at the numbers. Sean had a great year with the Milwaukee Brewers, had a little bit of a hiccup in the postseason, and of course Edwin Jackson was acquired to bolster the staff, strengthen the bullpen. But I think this game could very well come down to the strategic walk. And what I mean by that, the offenses are so good, you cannot continuously pitch to the meat of this order. You must walk around and pitch around, guys, so look for who's smarter to do that to have the advantage.
Now, two big pickups. Jackson at the trade deadline, Sean Markham acquired in the offseason for Milwaukee. This series will shift to St. Louis Wednesday, tonight at Miller Park for Game 2.
Jump up, act the fool and stomp and dance. Said you need to move on up to the front. Say feel the beat.
The National League Championship Series on TBS is brought to you by Chevrolet, proud to support youth baseball in cities and towns across the country. By nutritious and delicious avocados from Mexico. By E-Trade. And surf, search, and share at 4G speeds on America's largest 4G network, T-Mobile.
Roof is wide open tonight, and why wouldn't it be? 63 degrees here, just ideal conditions for the grand old game as we're set for Game 2 of this best-of-7 National League Championship Series. And we check in with the fourth member of our team, Craig Sager, standing by down below. Craig?
Well, thank you, Brian. Albert Pujols, the slugging struggler right now for the St. Louis Cardinals, has only 1 RBI in 6 postseason games. Arguably the best player in the game is struggling. Ron mentioned the double play ball he hit into in the 7th inning. I want to show you his previous at-bat that illustrates what's happening. 5th inning, Rafael Furcal in third with 1 out. He chases a pitch that's out of the strike zone. Now, Pujols watches as much video as anybody in baseball. He has seen also the pitch tracks, and it clearly was not a ball that was in the strike zone. Now, the hitting coach, Mark McGuire, has said, don't expand that strike zone. A walk is as good as a hit. Pass it on to Matt Holliday and Lance Berkman, who bat behind you. Pujols is going to make the adjustments tonight, according to his manager, Tony La Russa, who predicts that Albert Pujols will be the hitting star, and nobody should be surprised. That's you.
All right, Craig, thank you. And interesting that La Russa does make a switch in his batting order. A couple of changes, actually, as we take a look at tonight's starting lineups. Brought to you by the new Capital One Cash Card for La Russa's Cardinals tonight. Rafael Furcal back in the leadoff spot. John Jay back in his number 2 spot. And then it's Pujols batting third. The middle of the order is where the change is. Holiday is now hitting cleanup. Lance Berkman batting 5th. Those two were in opposite spots last night. Yadier Molina batting 6th, the catcher. And then the bottom 3 for La Russa. David Freese had a 3-run homer yesterday. Nick Punto gets his first start of the LCS. And the pitcher, Edwin Jackson, will round it out. And that starting 9 will match up against Sean Markham, a 13-game winner this year. He was much better on the road than he was at home for the Milwaukee Brewers this season. And John, you mentioned he's been leaking a little oil in the month of September and in his first postseason start, but he gets the call in game 2.
Well, last 5 starts, 29 innings, 26 runs. That's not the formula for success, but I'll tell you what, less than 40% of his pitches are in the strike zone. So for St. Louis, who's an aggressive team, who swings a lot at the first pitches, that could be right up the alley of Markham if they are able to go out of the zone and get his pitches.
You know, that speaks right to what Craig Sager was talking about, is that Pujols has been going out of the strike zone. You talked, John, in the open about the pitchers, maybe some prudent walks here and there. Well, the offense has to take walks here and there also if the pitcher are going to allow it.
Game 2 ready to get underway here at Miller Park, and it begins with strike 1 to Rafael Furcal. Yesterday, Furcal with a couple of hits. He was 2 for 5 with a double and a single. Scored a couple of runs batting out of the leadoff spot. A 9-6 final score yesterday. The Brewers scored 9 runs on 11 hits. The Cardinals 6 runs on 9 hits, and it was a comeback win for Milwaukee yesterday. And another big inning. Seen a lot of big innings in this postseason this year. For Milwaukee, it was a 6-run 5th inning. They brought 10 men to the plate against Jaime Garcia. Zach Greinke picking up the win over Garcia. John Axford with the save, and Axford is fit to go tonight for Milwaukee. As Furcal, a big bouncing ball to Betancourt. 1 gone, and that's how it begins tonight for Sean Markham.
Defensively behind Markham, you see a little change. Nigel Morgan gets the start in center field. Gomez was there last night. Then the infield, Hairston's got to stay in there. He has hot numbers. Betancourt, Weeks, and Fielder at first base, who made a great play in last night's game. And Jonathan Lucroy doing the catching again.
Now Lucroy, part of the offensive explosion last night, had a couple of hits. Has been a solid defender this series as well, as John Jay will hit with 1 away.
From Sean Markham, 5 different type of pitches. You won't see it past 90 too often, and you won't see too many pitches straight. You'll see that pitch zone that we're looking at, and they're going to be dots all over the place.
Drops a bunt down. Markham cannot make a play. A beautiful bunt by John Jay, and a base runner for Albert Pujols. That'll be an infield hit. John Jay brings a lot of weapons to the plate. This is one of them.
Well, you don't see this too often against Markham. He was a college shortstop, an incredible fielder, and just not able to make that play. I thought that he tried to make it a little fancier than he had to. Probably could have stopped and fired a strike over there and had a better chance.
So the Cardinals testing Markham right away. A bunt single, and now Albert Pujols will hit. Albert was 1 for 4 in game 1 yesterday. His hit was a single in the first inning, but his at-bat in the 7th, maybe the biggest at-bat of the night for the Cardinals. He bounced into that 5-4-3 double play that Ron showed you, and it wiped out a Cardinal rally. And why wouldn't Tony La Russa expect big things from Albert Pujols? He's been doing it his entire career. He's had some monster games in the postseason as well, but has not homered in the postseason since 2006. The year the Cardinals won the World Series. Albert Pujols got off to a great start at his postseason career. The numbers through his first 39 games, that covers about halfway through the 06 postseason run. But in the last 23, a .269 hitter, pedestrian for Albert Pujols, and just 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. And all of this offense with the St. Louis Cardinals you have to expect Albert Pujols to be a big part of it if they're going to advance to the World Series.
Again, the illusion of that pitch starting in the strike zone, out of the strike zone by the time he gets to the plate. Another swing and miss by Albert. His numbers are a little misleading. He does have 8 base hits in the postseason. Before them were in 1 game.
Pujols coming off a 37 home run season with 99 driven in. Narrowly missed a 300 batting average. He had 299. One of the most feared right-handed hitters in all of baseball, and this is a series that matches up 2 first basemen that will set the market for free agency this offseason in Albert Pujols and Prince Fielder. A ball and a strike on Pujols with John Jay at first base. And that one is ripped foul. Pujols getting out ahead of it. Sean Markham, everything, including the kitchen sink, as an old baseball term goes. He'll mix it up. He was the first piece to the Doug Melvin puzzle. The Brewers general manager making a trade for Sean Markham with the Toronto Blue Jays. Gave up the Brewers' best prospect to get Markham, and pretty balanced repertoire. And you got to go to the thumb when you're calling pitches for Sean Markham. It takes all 5.
When they talk about Sean Markham, Rick Granitz, the pitching coach for the Brewers, said he adds and subtracts as well as anyone he's ever seen. He also judges the speed of the bat of the hitter. If he's way ahead of the ball like Pujols was in his last swing, he'll take a little off.
Markham had a lot of trouble connecting with the signals with his catcher in his last start, as Pujols lifts one deep left, and he'll watch this one fly out of here. Albert Pujols, a 2-run home run, and it is the Cardinals who strike first once again. Pujols goes deep for the first time in the postseason since '06, and a 2-0 lead for St. Louis.
Well, one of the things that you just talked about, Ron, his bat got sped up by an inside fastball. He just pulled an off-speed pitch way foul. He stayed in there, and as Albert can do better than anybody, turn a pitch around quicker than it's thrown in. And right there was just a location up, and Albert just throws his hands and the barrel of the bat, and it just takes off.
So Albert Pujols puts the Cardinals on top 2-0. A missile that quiets down this sellout crowd at Miller Park. Cardinals had just 1 2-strike RBI. Their 2-strike hitting a bit of a concern for their manager until that 2-run home run by Albert Pujols. Markham has been a victim of the long ball so far in his 2 postseason starts. He gave up the grand slam home run to Paul Goldschmidt of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Matt Holliday hitting cleanup today for St. Louis. We'll take another look at this Pujols home run.
But we just talked about speeding up the bat. John did, and he had thrown him a slow slider that he pulled foul. You thought he'd come back with something even slower, but he tried to get inside on Albert, just show him a pitch inside, and he kept it fair, much to the like of La Russa and hitting coach Mark McGuire.
Saw the conversation with Yadier talking about a mechanical thing that he had been working on and made a change right there. Shoulders dipping versus that ability to keep them parallel and turning on the ball. Seen it all too often. You're going to have to make him aware of the outside part of the plate and slow it down with velocity versus speed it up.
I think sometimes, John, pitchers kind of double think. He had thrown a ball in the dirt away that he'd gotten Albert to swing over, and I think he was just trying to show him a pitch inside and go back out there, but he never got there.
Yeah, the effect pitches aren't supposed to be hit.
2 balls, 2 strikes on Matt Holliday. And the count goes full, and The classic swing of Albert Pujols.
Boy, Pujols hit that ball with some anger, didn't he? Just a line drive that made this ballpark look tiny.
Now, once again, for the second consecutive day, the roof is open here at Miller Park. Also, the panels in the outfield are open, and the ball is jumping. No ballpark would have held that one, however, as Holliday takes ball 4. And Markham in some trouble in this first inning. Back-to-back hits, the home run by Pujols, now a walk to Matt Holliday.
Well, a starting pitcher, especially when you've had the year he had, a very good year for the Milwaukee Brewers. And he's coming off of Tommy John not too long ago, and his innings are increasing. But the one thing you got to have is a bad memory. And that bad memory starts in the postseason. He did not have the start he wanted in Arizona. He's come out hoping to have a quick start. Mechanics maybe rushing it a little bit. You see a lot of pitches in the dirt, but this guy lives off of the plate. I already mentioned he doesn't throw many pitches in the strike zone, and we're seeing that in the first inning.
So here is Lance Berkman with 1 away. And Ron, what do you make of the lineup switch for Tony La Russa? He flip-flops Matt Holliday and Lance Berkman.
Sometimes when I watch Tony La Russa make out his lineups, I think he just wants to change just to change it up. But I think what he's trying to do there is just mix up Berkman, who had that big 3-run home run in the first game of the playoffs against the Phillies, but hasn't done much since then. So move him a little down, move Holliday up to protect Albert.
Berkman did have 2 hits yesterday, batting in the cleanup spot behind Pujols. He drove in a run. His RBI single in the 5th inning made it a 5-2 lead for the Cardinals at the time. But what a luxury for a manager to have 3 hitters like this that you can put anywhere in the batting order and have success with Pujols and Holliday and Lance Berkman.
Most pitchers, John, they try to work on his arm before the game. They'll take a look at Berkman's numbers against Markham. Not very good, obviously. But maybe with Markham, I think what they work on first is his neck. Get that nice and loose, because he shakes off as much as any pitcher I've ever seen.
A lot more options out there for catcher Jonathan Lucroy. 2 balls and a strike on Berkman. And the count goes to 3-1. And these are the kinds of counts that Sean Markham can ill afford to get into with this powerhouse lineup of the St. Louis Cardinals. A hitter's count for Berkman. And that one's pulled foul. Now Markham against the Arizona Diamondbacks went 4 2/3. He gave up 7 earned runs. 2 of those runs came in the first inning. Markham giving up 22 home runs during the regular season. And the first inning has been a trouble spot for Sean Markham. See what he has in mind. 3-2 on Lance Berkman. Runner goes, and a strike called. Throw to second is in time. Strike him out, throw him out, double play to end the inning. But the Cardinals are on the board. Albert Pujols goes deep. 2-0 St. Louis. The Brewers are coming up. Albert Pujols has made his presence felt in this LCS, a 2-run home run. And now the Brewers coming up for the first time. And let's take a look at tonight's starting lineup. Brought to you by the new Capital One Cash Card, with Corey Hart leading off, Niger Morgan batting second, Ryan Braun in the 3-hole. The middle of the order for Ron Renicky is Prince Fielder, Ricky Weeks at second base, and Jerry Hairston over at third, with Uni Betancourt, the shortstop, batting 7th. Jonathan Lucroy will hit 8th, and Sean Markham rounds it out. In that batting order will face Edwin Jackson, a trade deadline pickup for the St. Louis Cardinals, technically from the Toronto Blue Jays. They've been pitching for the Chicago White Sox. They made a paper move with Edwin Jackson. He never appeared in a game for the Blue Jays. Part of a big trade for St. Louis, and Jackson 12-9 record for the season combined. He was 5-2 as a member of the Cardinals. As complicated as Sean Markham is, John, you pointed out
Edwin Jackson about as simple as it gets.
Yeah, a lot's going to be on his fastball. He's got a good fastball, firm fastball. If it's down in the zone, he's got a downer slider that really depends on, throws it, and those are going to be what the swings and misses are. That pitch right there is only going to be as good as the fastball strikes. So for him to pitch down in the zone, and one of the things he's been pretty good at when his team scores him runs and shutdown innings, 2.27 ERA.
Corey Hart ahead in the count. 3 balls and a strike on Corey Hart. A power hitting leadoff hitter for the Milwaukee Brewers. Hart did have a hit yesterday. He was 1 for 4. Had a walk and a run scored. He was part of that 6-run inning. As a matter of fact, he started the inning with a single in the 5th. And Hart into center field, right to John Jay. And there is out number 1.
The outfield defense for the Cardinals. Holiday, Berkman flanking John Jay in center field, a fine center fielder. Infield defense, freeze for call. Nick Punto in there tonight for Ryan Theriot, and Pujols and Molina at first and catching respectively.
Nick Punto, and with the Cardinals having to place Skip Schumacher on the disabled list or off the postseason roster, it is Punto and Ryan Theriot that will share the duties at second base. Cardinals had to make a couple of changes on their roster with Skip Schumacher and Jake Westbrook left off the roster. Kyle McClellan was added along with Lance Lynn as Nyjer Morgan takes a strike.
Tim Timmons so far is calling that pitch down in the strike zone. That should be a good thing for both these right-handers.
Bouncing ball to Punto. Takes care of Morgan for out number 2. 2 quick outs for Edwin Jackson. Tonight's umpires, 6-man umpiring crew with Tim Timmons calling the balls and strikes. You got Sam Holbrook, Mike Everett, Bill Miller joining him on the bases with Mike Winters and last night's home plate umpire Gary Darling, the crew chief, as the outfield umpires tonight. A 6-man umpiring crew for the postseason. Normally in the regular season it is a 4-man crew. And here comes Ryan Braun. Another big postseason game yesterday. Braun with 4 runs batted in, had a 2-run homer in the 1st and a 2-run double in the 5th. It has been a coming out party for Ryan Braun in this postseason of 2011. See his numbers at home. Only Bill Madlock of the Pittsburgh Pirates with a higher batting average in his home ballpark in the postseason at this point. Braun hitting .522. And there's another base hit right back up the middle. Ryan Braun is aboard for Prince Fielder. Let's take a look at the big hit brought to you by Avocados from Mexico. And the hit that gave the Brewers the lead yesterday from the big man, Prince Fielder, was a 2-run home run in the 5th inning and gave them a lead, John, that they would not give up the rest of the day.
Well, this is the formula, though. You want to face Prince Fielder with 2 outs, with room for error. Even though there's a runner on a base right now, you just cannot face these 3 and 4 hitters when the first 2 guys get on.
Fielder, a shot right to Punto, makes the catch in the air, and the side is retired. 2-0 St. Louis. We're off and running at Miller Park. Cardinals coming up. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear has learned making tires that go the distance inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven.
I was talking to the pilot of the Goodyear blimp. Normally, this is one of the latest times in the year he's here in Milwaukee.
Is that right? So it's unusual time for him to be here.
Yeah.
And not much wind up there to speak of, so it's an ideal night for flying, as it is for baseball. Cardinals lead 2-0 on a 2-run homer by Pujols. And it's Yadier Molina to lead off. Sean Markham back on the mound. Molina, David Freese, and Nick Punto will start it for the Cardinals. Off the end of the bat, Betancourt winds it up, and there is out number 1. Now, the reminder, this National League Championship Series coverage on TBS is brought to you in HD by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. This series will shift to St. Louis for Game 3 on Wednesday, and great pitching matchup scheduled for Wednesday with Giovanni Gallardo against Chris Carpenter. Tonight it is Markham against Jackson. And if you're the Milwaukee Brewers, Ron, you know that if you win every home game the rest of the way out, because the National League has home field advantage in the World Series, you might not have to win on the road.
Well, thanks to their own Prince Fielder. That's why they have the advantage. That big home run in the All-Star game. The thing for the Milwaukee Brewers is that they've had a lot of success with all their starting pitchers this year, and they only use 6, so very dependable. Guys put up a lot of innings. But so far in the postseason, really, Gallardo's been the only one that's been effective as a starter. His ERA is 1.29. The rest of the starters is almost 12, their ERA. Or 11.5 there. That's going to have to get better.
Gallardo pinched the opener and picked up the win, and then pitched well in the clinching game. A no decision in that game to send the Brewers to the LCS. 1-2 to Freeze. In the air to right. Corey Hart a few steps back, and there's out number 2. And with all that being said, I guess for the St. Louis Cardinals, they know how important it is to steal a game on the road. And St. Louis has been a good road team all throughout the regular season. They obviously went into Philadelphia. They beat some of the best pitching in the National League. They won on the road in Philadelphia to earn the right to play in the LCS, and they know how important this game is here tonight. It's possible that the Cardinals, with a win tonight, might not have to return to Milwaukee if they run the table for 4 straight.
Well, the fans here have been incredible for this team. Electric all season long. But I don't think St. Louis could go to any tougher house than Philadelphia for that 5th game where they got that win to advance.
Nick Punto with 2 outs in the 2nd inning. St. Louis beat Cliff Lee on the road in Philadelphia in Game 2 of the LDS, and then beat Roy Halladay in Game 5 on the road in Philadelphia.
And I think when Philadelphia thinks about that series this offseason, they're going to look to Game 2, where Lee had a 4-0 lead against the Cardinals. They showed great resolve in coming back.
Punto high in the air. Back is Ricky Weeks. And Sean Markham has a 1-2-3 inning. Ricky Weeks will lead off when we come back. The Brewers coming up down a pair to St. Louis. The Redbirds with a bang tonight. A 2-run home run by Pujols in the 1st inning. They lead it 2-0. You can catch all the action of the 2011 Major League Baseball League Championship Series on TBS and Fox. Join the postseason debate at MLBFancade.com and follow the action on Twitter with the hashtag postseason. Legends are born in October. Did you get your hashtag set up yet, John?
I'm almost there.
All right. It's a 2-day process.
Turn me on to something.
Edwin Jackson, a scoreless first, gave up a hit to Braun. Retired fielder to end the inning. Now Ricky Weeks will lead off for Milwaukee. He had been their leadoff hitter most of his career until just after the All-Star break. It was a rough LDS for Ricky Weeks, but he did have a hit yesterday. Weeks with a double. 1 for 3. That one in the air to center, playable for John Jay. And Jackson has his first out of the 2nd inning.
One of the parts of the field that Jackson really can be effective with his fastball, because he beats a lot of hitters, is straight up the middle center field. He's attacking the hitters, trying to get through the lineup maybe with some fastballs, and then later in the count and later in the game start dropping some of them sliders when you get those first pitch swings.
Jackson has moved around quite a bit. He just turned 28 a month ago. Already pitching for his 6th team as he faces Jerry Hairston with 1 away in the 2nd inning.
Jerry Hairston is so hot in the postseason that he kept Casey McGee on the bench.
Casey McGee had a 3-home-run game against Edwin Jackson. That was a lot of discussion for Ron Renicky and his coaching staff. And it is McGee who sits, and it is Hairston who plays, primarily because Hairston is 6 for his last 8 against Edwin Jackson. Yesterday, Hairston hit second for Milwaukee, had 2 hits. He was 2 for 4 with a walk, a couple of runs scored. Jackson beginning the year with the White Sox. He was 7-7 for Ozzie Guillen's White Sox. Had an ERA just under 4. As Hairston stays hot. Boy, this guy has been some kind of pickup for the Milwaukee Brewers. They got him from the Washington Nationals near the trade deadline, and he has been an impact player in the postseason for him, Ron.
Boy, just a short stroke for Hairston. When he was with Washington, he played a lot of third base for an injured Ryan Zimmerman for a lot of the summer. So even though he did not start a lot of games for the Brewers, very comfortable at third base.
Now it'll be Uni Betancourt, the Brewers shortstop. Betancourt with a couple of hits last night, including the capper in that 6-run 5th inning. Hit a 2-run home run. Free swinging Cuban shortstop Betancourt. This came with 2 strikes last night against Octavio Dotel.
A little hanging curveball there by Dotel, caught in the bullpen by the bullpen catcher. And that raised finger as Betancourt was running around the bases.
He's really turned it on in his last 3 postseason games, appearing in the postseason for the first time. Just 1 hit in his first 3 games. And he rips one to left field, a base hit. Milwaukee with 2 on and 1 away in the 2nd inning. Back-to-back hits, Hairston and Betancourt.
Well, an obvious game plan of trying to establish the fastball, which is fine. Right now he's been reducing him to singles, but the biggest thing is now you're going to have to start mixing in a couple sliders. You got to start getting to the point where get out of a jam. His money pitch is this slider. He does have the 8-9 hitter coming up, but establishing it and mixing in other pitches now becomes a little bit more of the priority.
The 8th place hitter, Jonathan Lucroy. The Milwaukee catcher had a couple of hits last night, had a double. 3 RBIs in the postseason.
That's one of the things you got to like about Yadier Molina, a real leader behind the plate. And as soon as he sees something wrong, he's going to go out there and, of course, address that with his pitcher. It could be as simple as changing signs with the runner on second base. But I think more obviously what you said, John, when he uses that slider, especially first pitch, he's got to throw it for a strike. Don't throw that one in the dirt early.
I always feel the toughest job for an 8th hole hitter again is trying to figure out what the pitcher is going to do to you, because you've got the pitcher behind you, not a lot of protection, and it's that cat and mouse game. Am I going to get that fastball for a strike, or am I going to get the slider? Waiting it out sometimes will prove to be a good thing in the 8 hole.
Lucroy had a nice year with runners in scoring position in the regular season. Hit nearly 300. And it's 2 balls and no strikes. Does it play at all in a pitcher's mind, looking at both of these pitchers tonight, Jackson and Markham, when you think about them as hitters? They both swing the bat very well. Both were position players at one point. Sean Markham waits on deck.
Some last-minute instructions from his manager, Ron Renicky. I think if you're Jackson here, 2-0 count, you've got to concentrate on getting that ball down, fastball down, and hope Lucroy tries to pull it and hits it on the ground.
Edwin Jackson was among the best in baseball in inducing double plays this year. As you see, that one just missed off the edge. Jackson got 27 ground ball double plays this season. That was 5th best in the major leagues. A green light with 3-0, and Lucroy fouls it back.
This is a Brewers team that will swing the bat 3-0. I think that's a great choice for the pitcher on deck for Renicky. Let him go. Let him take a hack at that 3-0 fastball.
All part of that aggressive nature of manager Ron Renicky. It doesn't show up in the stolen base category, but it shows up everywhere else, including 3-0 green lights up and down his batting order.
Calls for a slider right here, 3-1. Don't have to give in to the hitter with the pitcher on deck.
And he got the breaking ball, and now Jackson is back in the count. 3-2 it goes to Lucroy.
The hitter told you, Ron, that he was going to be aggressive. 3-1. Good choice of pitch.
Counter with something less aggressive. Very good.
Well, now what does he have in mind for him on 3-2? In the air, shallow right. Bergman is there, and there is a big comeback for Edwin Jackson, down 3-0 to Jonathan Lucroy. He gets the out number 2, and now he'll deal with the pitcher with 2 on and 2 away.
Amazing thing there is he had 1 pitch to hit, and that was the 3-0 pitch, and he didn't execute, and that's why it's so tough to hit 8th in the National League. You don't get conventionally pitched the same way, or typically in a way that the count would indicate otherwise. And so now Jackson gets away with falling behind 3-0, and now he's got the pitcher.
You work the pitcher to get into a hitter's count, and you're not always going to get that fastball in a hitter's count when you're the 8th place guy.
See the numbers at the plate for Sean Markham this year, a college shortstop who handles the bat well. Had a home run this year for Milwaukee. It was here at Miller Park. As a matter of fact, it was the only grand slam of the season for the Milwaukee Brewers. It came from their pitcher. On the 4th of July, Sean Markham hit a grand slam off Daniel Hudson. Just the 2nd pitcher in franchise history, and the first in nearly 42 years to hit a grand slam. It was Fred Talbot of the Seattle Pilots who did it in 1969. And yes, Seattle was part of the Brewers franchise. That's where they started in '69 before they moved to Milwaukee in 1970. There's a Pilot's cap.
Well, watching him hit that home run and flinging the bat like he knew what he was doing. He's flung the bat this year, and most recently flung his glove when he gave up a grand slam in his first start in the postseason.
Markham gave up the grand slam to Paul Goldschmidt, and almost instantaneously as it left the bat, Markham's glove was in the air. He knew he'd made a mistake. And a pop-up, foul territory. Pujols, and it falls. Pujols and Molina looking at each other, and the ball bounces between them. That could be an error on Pujols. We'll see how they score it, and we'll see if that's going to be a big play in this one.
Well, there's no reason for Albert to be looking at Molina. That's a difficult play for the catcher. That's a first baseman's ball all the way. No need to look at the catcher. That's a difficult play. It's almost halfway up the first base line. I think Albert, because Molina is so adept defensively, thought that he was just going to get it, but that's got to be Albert's play.
Pujols playing so deep at first base. Miscommunication between the 2 Gold Glovers. And Markham has new life. The 1-2. Markham fouls it away.
You know who would have caught that ball in your day, John? You were pitching? You would have.
Pitcher wants it more than anybody on the field. Well, slider in the dirt will take care of everything right here. That's what he tried to do right there. Markham just got the bat on the ball. But 1 slider in the dirt, all is forgotten. Have a little conversation in the dugout. Pujols will be batting next inning.
Shallow center, long run for John Jay, and he's got it for the out. Inning over. Edwin Jackson works around back-to-back singles from the bottom of the order. We're headed to the third in Milwaukee. 2-0 St. Louis. They lead Milwaukee as we head to the third inning, and you can get the latest insider analysis on today's hot topics, like Cal Ripken Jr. discussing who he believes will win the Rangers-Tigers American League Championship Series. Go behind the mic with the biggest names in sports, presented by Allstate, exclusively on SI.com. Brian Anderson with John Smoltz, Ron Darling, Craig Sager. Our terrific TBS crew, led in the truck by Glenn Diamond and Lonnie Dale. Great to have you with us tonight. It is a sparkling night here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Temperatures in the low 60s. And the home run ball continues to be the theme, as Albert Pujols has given the Cardinals the early lead with a 2-run homer in the first inning. Edwin Jackson, the Redbird pitcher, will lead it off in this third inning. Jackson can swing the bat as well. Had 8 hits during the regular season, and you can tell by that swing he's not afraid to let it loose. Jackson was originally drafted as an outfielder. Didn't pitch much in high school. Born in Germany, but played his high school ball in Columbus, Georgia. Moved around quite a bit. Military family, Edwin Jackson. And he's moved around quite a bit in his big league career as well.
One thing to watch, in the bat that Markham had, he fouled the ball off his left foot. And in the warm-ups and just throwing a couple pitches, he's been kind of shaking that foot a little bit.
Into shallow center, Nigel Morgan playing very deep, lays out and cannot make the catch. That is a base hit for Edwin Jackson. And the Cardinals have a man on here in the third as we check in with Matt Weiner in Atlanta for an update. What do you have, Matt?
Hey, Brian, it's a game break presented by Bank of America. We've got the finale from Game 2 of the ALCS. Rangers need 1. Nelson Cruz gives them 4. It's a walk-off grand slam, his second homer of the game, third of the series already, as Texas takes a 2-0 lead. Game 3 tomorrow night in Detroit.
Wow, how about that finish in Arlington yesterday? Postponed, inclement weather. They play it tonight, and the Rangers get a couple of big home runs from Nelson Cruz. He tied it at 3 and then hits the grand slam to win it, and they'll head to Detroit with the Rangers up 2-0. Rafael Furcal lifts one in the air to Braun, and the first out of the inning. So we welcome all of those who are coming across from Fox to watch our game, the National League Championship Series. A reminder that Fox will have coverage of Game 3 tomorrow. With the Rangers up 2-0, and now Detroit, and we heard how loud they can be in the Motor City at Comerica Park. They will welcome the League Championship Series to Detroit tomorrow.
How about the last 2 postseasons for Nelson Cruz? Amazing. As much power as anyone in the game.
Texas off to a great start in that series. And a trip to the World Series in the balance, and it's fun to look at these final 4 teams that are left: the Brewers, the Cardinals, Tigers, and the Rangers, and how they match up against each other. The winners will match up in the World Series. Certainly the Cardinals are built with that American League style lineup. John Jay with 1 away, and the count evens at a ball and a strike.
Texas has done an amazing job. Obviously losing Cliff Lee. They're the most balanced team, I think, in the playoffs. They can throw a lot of dynamic arms out of the bullpen. They've got some guys that can mix and match in the rotation. I just think they're the deepest. The Tigers are close, and certainly they got to make things happen with Verlander. Tough break. 2 starts in his postseason, interrupted with rain, and he's got to be going, man.
Well, the big thing for Texas is that during the season they had the tall right-hander Redondo in the rotation. They've been able to put him back in the bullpen, and he has been dynamic so far for them.
Well, that'll be a quick turnaround in the American League, much like it was for the ALDS for the Tigers and the Yankees, losing the off day, and they're right back at it in Detroit tomorrow. Runner takes off. Jackson, and a hit and run is on. Jay into left field. Jackson will hold up. John Jay continues to execute very well. He had a bunt single in the first inning. And now, on a hit and run, Jay slaps one to the opposite field.
Well, this pitch away just sticks out the bat. You saw the third baseman Hairston moving towards the hole as the pitch was delivered. And he just hits it behind him. And you know you have a pretty good athlete as a pitcher if you can run the hit and run with him on first base.
Well, if you're the third base coach, you're hoping Albert hits a gap or over the fence to try and make that decision with your pitcher at second. Not a lot of fun.
Jose Oquendo at third base for the Cardinals, the third base coach. Pujols on the first pitch. Fly ball to right. Long run for Corey Hart, and he slides and cannot make the play. And Hart crashes into that retaining wall. Not a lot of room in foul territory.
You know, in these new ballparks, the way they're made and everyone, the fans are so close that this is how you have to approach catching a ball down the line. You have to make the slide so that way it cushions you a little bit, but that right knee of his seemed to hit below the pad into the cement.
Good effort by Corey Hart, but Pujols will see another pitch. Albert Pujols hit his first postseason home run since '06, 14 postseason games since his last home run back in 2006. Another one in the air. Fielder will give this one a look. And that one is headed for the seats. Well, in case you missed it, in the first inning, with this crowd roaring here at Miller Park, Pujols quieted him down quickly. A blast, and he enjoyed every minute of that with a two-run shot to give St. Louis the early lead.
And since that at bat, everything's been away. Cutters away. Pujols reaching a little bit, hitting foul balls down the right field line. Now, Pujols has been swinging at curveballs down off the plate. See if they want to go there with this 0-2 count.
Markham has two on behind him. One man out. Pujols led the National League in double plays grounded into. He bounced into one yesterday.
This is the problem you have with Lucroy and Markham. Lucroy went out there. They talked about a pitch. They came back, and they still couldn't be on the same page.
Now Ron Renicky telling us that Sean Markham calls his own game. He is a fly ball pitcher typically, but he's hoping to add to the ground ball totals here against Albert Pujols. A ball and two strikes. And Pujols able to lay off. Brewers manager Ron Renicky hoping to get Markham through this frame.
I can assure you one pitch it's not going to be the fastball in that he hit out in his first at bat.
Got to go breaking ball, curveball slower than slow, and see if you can get him to expand the zone.
Into center, well hit. Nigel Morgan turns and runs at the track, cannot get it, crashes into the wall. Jackson will score. Right behind him, John Jay. He'll score, and Albert Pujols has given the Cardinals a 4-0 lead. Two more RBIs for Pujols. And the Cardinals are getting big production from their three-hole hitter tonight.
Well, we said that Albert Pujols in the opening shot that he needed to answer with his teammates against this Brewers team offensively, and I guess he has answered with this home run and this two-run double. This ball, Morgan playing very deep, but still underestimated how far that ball would travel.
And a reaction from that Cardinal dugout. Pujols having a big night already. And here is Matt Holliday, still just one out. That was another 2-strike hit for Albert Pujols. So all 4 of his RBIs coming on 2-strike pitches. You want to find out how a team is going offensively. Look at their numbers with 2 strikes. Tonight it has been Pujols doing the big damage.
Well, he threw him a tight slider off the plate that Pujols just laid off of and then tried to go fastball away, but it was up. He's too strong to fool him up, but you can fool him with an off-speed pitch that changes in velocity about 10 to 12 miles, and that's what that curveball right there to Holliday was, to 76 miles an hour.
You know, it's hard to criticize Nyjer Morgan because this was a bullet off the bat of Albert Pujols, but he is probably their second center fielder defensively after Carlos Gomez. Gomez much more speed than Morgan, and what might have gotten back there on that line drive from Albert.
Well, you make that transition from grass to the warning track, you know you're getting close to the wall. You're willing to sacrifice your body, but you don't really know exactly where that wall is when you're on a dead sprint sideways. It's not a Willie Mays turn your back and go get it.
Ball and a strike on Matt Holliday, and it's 2-1. Miller Park, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and a sellout crowd, and they are in their seats and quiet for the time being as Albert Pujols has delivered 4 big runs in this game. A 2-run homer in the first and the 2-run double just a moment ago. Brian Anderson with Ron Darling, John Smoltz, and Craig Sager. And a pickoff play. Pujols is back. This is a series that features some of the elite hitters in the National League and in all of baseball, with Pujols, Holliday, Berkman. You've got Braun and Fielder, and an all-star and Ricky Weeks as well. 2 terrific offenses matching up. Broken bat. Ricky Weeks gobbles it up, and Holliday is retired. The second out. Pujols advances to third base. And Markham will face Lance Berkman now with 2 away.
Number 12, the right fielder, Lance Berkman.
Well, it's interesting because of the bad numbers, 1 for 16, that Berkman has against Sean Markham, entices you to pitch against this great hitter with the right-handed Molina on deck.
Berkman loves to swing at the first pitch. He had a first pitch 2-out RBI yesterday. And he lays off, takes a strike. One of the things we saw yesterday, there was a hit batter early. Fielder was hit after Braun's home run. You guys were wondering, speculating if the warnings that were issued by the home plate umpire, how that would affect the inside pitching tonight. So far, Markham and Edwin Jackson have pitched inside occasionally. Can something like that affect the rest of the series in the postseason, you think?
I don't think so. I think you've got to have complete confidence that Gary Darling and his crew are going to know when someone is intentionally trying to hit someone. There's not an umpire in baseball that wants to throw out a pitcher and a manager out of a postseason game.
Both managers said the warnings were understandable yesterday. It came at the bottom of the first. And these two teams have some bad blood history this season, and going back a few years, as a matter of fact. They matched up 18 times during the regular season. They split the season series 9-9. Although the Cardinals got the best of Milwaukee down the stretch, St. Louis won 6 of their last 7 regular season meetings. Pujols at third, 1-2 the count on Berkman. And he's able to lay off, check to swing. Count goes to 2-2.
John, I don't know if you agree, but sometimes if you do not have swing and miss stuff, if you don't have great stuff, you've got to pitch in more than the normal pitcher.
Well, and what he does, he backdoors cutters, he throws cutters in. He wants the hitter to recognize it's a fastball, but have just late movement enough to where they either get it off the end of the bat and break it or jam him. He cannot live in the middle of the strike zone, and he has done a decent job with the exception of Pujols. That's where he's been in the strike zone a little bit.
Off the end of the bat, Weeks lays out. Can he finish it off? The throw in time. Bergman retired. Ricky Weeks makes a nice play to end the inning, but not before Albert Pujols lets loose again. A 2 RBI double for Pujols. He's driven in 4 already. This National League Championship Series coverage on TBS is presented by the new Capital One Cash Card. A retractable roof here at Miller Park, a stadium that opened in 2001, hosting their first league championship series. And the Brewers are down to the Cardinals 4-0. As we go to the bottom of the 3rd inning, Albert Pujols has been the offense for St. Louis. 2 hits, 4 runs, 2-run homer and a 2-run double. Corey Hart will lead off. Edwin Jackson back on the mound. And the Redbird starter back to the top of the order with Hart. It'll be Hart, Morgan, and Braun to start it here in the 3rd inning. Hart lined out to center field in the 1st inning. There's so much connection between this Milwaukee team in 2011 and the 1982 Milwaukee team, and they're hoping that like the 82 Brewers, they're able to come back from a 4-run deficit. It's only happened once in franchise history, and that was that 82 team against the Cardinals in the World Series. The Brewers were in the American League East at the time, moving to the National League in 1998. Cardinals, of course, in the National League. That was Game 4 of the 82 World Series.
One of the names on that 82 team that's not as well known as the Coopers and Gorman Thomas and Ben Ogilvy's are the Charlie Moore, who played right field for that team.
Yeah, Charlie Moore, they were known as Harvey's Wallbangers. Robin Yount was on that team, of course. MVP season in 1982. As Hart takes a called strike 3, Edwin Jackson picks up his first strikeout to start the 3rd inning. Now that 82 series had a lot of backdrop to it. It was a team in Milwaukee that banged their way to the postseason. The Cardinals, we weren't sure if they had enough offense in 1982, but they certainly had enough pitching and great speed under Whitey Herzog. And a World Series title for St. Louis in 1982. Winning in 7 games. They won the last 2 games of 1982 to beat Milwaukee.
It was a coming out per se for Willie McGee, who had a great series in center field.
Nigel Morgan with 1 away. Morgan bounced out his last time up. Edwin Jackson has given up 3 hits thus far, all of them singles. Gave up back-to-back hits in the 2nd inning, then pitched out of it. Tony La Russa talking about Edwin Jackson today and how big of a pickup he was. Anytime you get a starter, a guy who eats innings, a guy that can bring that no-hit stuff to the ballpark. And Jackson does have a Major League no-hitter on his register. He did it last year as a member of the Diamondbacks.
Well, he was very key in their run after August 24th, being 10.5 back. Since August 25th, he's 4-0 with a 2.96 ERA, 51 2/3 innings, only 1 home run allowed. That's getting it done down the stretch.
And a swing and a miss. Nigel Morgan down on strikes. Back-to-back Ks for Edwin Jackson. Now pound for pound king Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao puts his welterweight title on the line against three-division world champion Juan Manuel Marquez in the third and biggest fight of their fierce rivalry. That'll be Saturday, November 12th, live on pay-per-view. Pacquiao Marquez. 2 men are out for Ryan Braun. Braun hitting for the second time with nobody on base. Jackson knows he must contain the top of his batting order in front of Braun and Fielder, and he's done a nice job of that so far tonight.
Well, what's nice about facing him with 2 outs or Prince with 2 outs is you don't have to show him everything you want to show him to get him out in a clutch situation. You can attack in these situations with fastballs. The worst that's going to happen is it's going to be a solo home run.
A strike on the corner. Braun not pleased with that call. It goes to 0-2 on Ryan Braun.
Well, you don't know what's going to happen here for Jackson. We'll see this pitch on the pitch tracks. Good curveball down. We saw Edwin Jackson before the game today. Had his headphones on, come to the ballpark. Big smile, said hello to everybody. As cool as a cucumber.
Out of the C.C. Sabathia book, where he actually wants to talk to people. He wants to, you know, sometimes starting pitchers, I don't know the way you guys were when you pitch, but get locked into your hole, your zone, and don't want to talk to anybody. But Jackson has no problem with that before his game.
Just like I am now, just miserable to be around, Brian.
Well, Chris Carpenter was able to give Tony La Russa a complete game in Game 5 of the LDS against the Philadelphia Phillies, and that allowed La Russa to set up this rotation with Garcia yesterday, Jackson today. And he strikes out Braun. Molina picks it out of the dirt and secures it at first. How about Edwin Jackson striking out the side in the third inning? Goes through Hart, Morgan, and Braun. Cardinals are rolling in Game 2. And here's the best of the game, brought to you by the Audi A8. The Milwaukee Brewers' highest winning percentage at home. Go back to 1980. The Brewers a .718 winning percentage here in their home ballpark. They won a franchise record 57 games at Miller Park this year. And what's interesting, the Cardinals were the one team that was not intimidated by this ballpark. They were 4-5 at Miller Park. It's a losing record, but compared to what the rest of baseball did. And the St. Louis Cardinals had a sweep of the Brewers in this ballpark in late August and early September. You see the highest winning percentage at home. These are the teams. Of course, the Yankees winning the World Series in '98. Indians were a playoff team. Yankees on that list as well in '09 as World Series champions.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the '85 Yankees were there. I don't believe they went to the postseason that year, and to have that great numbers at home.
Now the Cardinals on the road were 9 games over 500. Only the Phillies had a better road record than St. Louis. And when you have a lineup that can swing the bats like Tony La Russa's lineup, you can certainly do some damage away from your home stadium. Molina lifts one foul, long run, Hart. He'll give it a look, and right up against the railing. That one is in the seats. Cardinals have been the class of the National League Central in the Tony La Russa years. They've won 7 division titles under La Russa in his 17 seasons and 9 postseason appearances for the Cardinals. As Molina rips one past a diving Hairston, that's going to get down into the corner. And Yadier Molina is in with a double to start the 4th inning. Well, the hits keep coming for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Well, every time Markham has made a mistake, it has been tattooed by the Cardinal hitters. This one, a shot past Hairston down the third base line. Jerry thought he should have made the play, but ball hit so hard it beat him to the spot.
A double for Molina. The Cardinals now with 6 hits through the first 3 innings in a batter. 4 of those 6 hits have come with 2 strikes. Markham has not been able to find the put-away pitch. Bouncing ball. Weeks is over, and it's Markham who covers. They get the out, but Molina advances as Freeze a productive out, sending Molina to third base. There's some confusion there between Prince Fielder and Ricky Weeks for a moment.
Well, Prince got caught in no man's land, went after that baseball, realized he couldn't get it and couldn't get back to the bag. Luckily, Markham heads up, was covering. Weeks threw him 100-mile-an-hour BB though, and I think he caught it right in his palm. Can't get back, so Markham's got to cover.
Yeah, you get to the bag, practice that play a lot, and then turn around and see what the runner at third's doing. The infield's in here, and you got a lot of options again to pitch around out of the strike zone, see if you can get some swings and misses. Because the pitcher's up, and these are the things we talked about in the open, Brian. You don't always have to pitch to contact and strikes. There are moments in the game where you can pitch around, feed off the aggressiveness of the hitter, and if a walk happens, a walk happens.
Nick Punto batting out of the 8th spot in the Cardinal batting order, with Edwin Jackson, the pitcher, next. Punto back up the middle and a base hit, and another run will score for the Cardinals. Through the drawn-in infield, it's an RBI single for Nick Punto, and it is 5-0 Redbirds.
Well, just great team offense there by the Cardinals. Molina with the leadoff double. Great job by Freeze to get him over, hitting the ball to the right side. And with the drawn-in infield, Punto not trying to do too much, just working his way back up the middle for a base hit.
Well, whatever the averages are normally with an infield back, you can just jack those up with the infield in. Just so many more ways to get a hit.
Edwin Jackson, the Cardinal pitcher. We'll see if he's up there to bunt with a runner at first. St. Louis pouring it on early. They've scored in every inning but the second. They lead 5-0 on 7 hits against Sean Markham.
Well, the Cardinals teach to show bunt, bring back, show bunt. You can do a bunch of different things out of this set. You can show the bunt, pull it back, and hit if the infielders charge too fast. Cardinals are all about working a way to show confusion and not give away anything when they're trying to execute.
That's a good point, John. Most pitchers in the National League will tip their hand that they're going to bunt. What the Cardinals do, they tip it right off the bat, then bring the bat back, so there's a little confusion for the defense.
Two hits in the inning. It was a double by Molina that started it. Nick Punto, an RBI single with the drawn-in infield. And Jackson will drop a bunt down. That's a fair ball in front of the plate. Lucroy makes the play for out number 2. That'll be a sacrifice bunt for Edwin Jackson.
Well, this is a play that you normally would see that the catcher could make a play at second base, but Nick Punto got a great secondary lead and a great jump, so there was no play at second base, and Lucroy decided to take the easy play at first. See, Jackson doesn't run. That's a fair ball, just barely. Lucroy can't make the play, so proceeds to first for the out.
And Dave McKay, the Cardinal first base coach, screaming at Nick Punto to hold his ground at second base. It looked like a foul ball. If you're a base runner, you turn around and everybody stopped moving. You could easily see Punto go back to the bag, but heads up by the first base coach keeps Punto at second. And the Cardinals have another runner in scoring position now for Rafael Furcal.
The way the batter's box is drawn up in Major League stadiums, that ball can be in the batter's box at the very corner and still be a fair ball because it's out in front. That line, of course, goes right to the back of the plate. Well, he gets the bat out in front, but see where that ball is? It had backspin on it. And maybe if Lucroy had let it go, it might have come back foul, but has to make the play.
takes the shore out. That gives the Cardinals a chance to add to their lead for Call. Even in the count, a ball and a strike. As is the case with so many postseason teams, it is the key pickups either during the season or right in front of the trade deadline, even in the non-waiver trade deadline. Or as we saw with Delvin Young with the Tigers past waivers in August even. It's the pickups that have big impacts. Sean Markham was acquired via trade by Milwaukee in the offseason. Rafael Furcal is a guy that the Cardinals picked up from the Los Angeles Dodgers. He spent most of the first half injured. Furcal had a broken left thumb in April. Missed 6 weeks. Then he came back and he had an oblique injury, missed another month. Hardly had any time with the Dodgers in the first half, but once he was finally healthy, the Cardinals had their sights set on Rafael Furcal, who the Brewers might have had some interest in as well. And he ended up in St. Louis.
And when Furcal first came up, John, he was your teammate, one of the most exciting players you've ever played with.
Yeah, he could do a little bit of both. Power, speed, great arm, great range at shortstop.
2-2 the count with 2 away. And it's ball 3. And you wonder how long Ron Renicky will go with Sean Markham if he loses Furcal. The Brewer manager has activity in his bullpen. And we might see a pitching change early tonight for Milwaukee. Marco Estrada is loosening. On the ground, this is Hairston, cuts in front to throw, and it is just in time to get the out. And the Cardinals are done in the 4th, but they get another run. 5-0 St. Louis. TBS October 18th. Prepare for nerd domination. Don't miss the Big Bang Theory. All new to TBS Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights starting October 18th.
Well, speaking of Big Bang here. Cruz, 9 home runs in 22 postseason games.
Nice, John, pulling out a stat there coming back from the commercial break.
I didn't really pull it out. I just read it.
Nelson Cruz of the Texas Rangers with 2 home runs today, giving the Rangers the Game 2 victory with a grand slam. As Prince Fielder will lead off for Milwaukee. This is a good time to say, speaking of Big Bang, with a big bopper at the plate in Prince Fielder. You read it out of order, John.
I know. That's why they don't let me do those kind of things.
Keep him away from the cards, Ron. 5-0 St. Louis. The Cardinals got a big bang from Pujols in the first inning. Pujols drove in a couple more in the 3rd, and then it was Nick Punto with an RBI single on the top of his frame. Meanwhile, Edwin Jackson, 3 shutout, and coming off his best inning. Struck out the side in the 3rd. Got Hart, Morgan, and Braun in his first 3 strikeouts of the game. Fielder to right center. That ball is pretty well hit. Back it goes, and it is one hop off the wall. Fielder on his way to second, and it's a leadoff double. So the Brewers have their leadoff hitter aboard, and moments ago we spent a little time with Cardinal manager Tony La Russa. Tony, we've been talking about some of the big pickups during the season. Edwin Jackson has to be right at the top of the list for your club this year.
Well, he really solidified our rotation, number one. And allowed guys like McClellan to go to the bullpen, and we got deeper there as well.
Adjustments in baseball are big, but you had a premonition about Albert Pujols today and what he was going to do.
Yeah. That's the easiest call you can make. I mean, this guy, he's going to get you sooner or later, and it's usually sooner.
Thanks to Tony La Russa, and he was praising Albert Pujols, talking to Craig Sager before the game, and Craig reported that before we started. And it is an easy premonition, but it's also a manager who knows who drives this offense in Albert Pujols, and he has had a big night already with 4 ribbies. Ricky Weeks with Fielder at second.
You can see so far that the Brewer hitters think this pitch is down from Jackson. Looks like a pretty good pitch, and on the pitch tracks catches the very bottom of that strike zone.
Two balls and a strike on Weeks, who flew out to center field his first time up.
Ricky was a great collegiate player for Southern University. To see Fielder getting instructions. And when he first came up, he had, a la Gary Sheffield, a real back and forth with his bat. They have tamed that down a little bit.
Weeks with surgeries on both wrists. And when he came back from the second surgery, that was the first thing that went, that waggle at the plate. But he hits as hard as anybody on this club, and now these Brewers fans are on their feet ready to see some action. And that one is launched way back and gone. Ricky Weeks, a 2-run home run.
How about this Brewers crowd rising in unison, almost imploring their team to make a comeback. And they're served well here by this bomb by Ricky Weeks.
Well, you knew he had to come into the strike zone, but that's the one area you don't want to come into to Ricky Weeks. Make him try and pull an outside fastball. That was right in his wheelhouse.
Well, Brewers manager Ron Renicky sticking with Weeks in the lineup based on what he saw yesterday with his bat. And he responds with a 2-run homer as Jerry Hairston takes a strike from Edwin Jackson. There was some consideration because Casey McGee had a 3-homer game against Jackson at good numbers that you could keep McGee and Hairston in the lineup, which meant removing Weeks from the starting lineup. But Renicky let it ride with Weeks, and he cashes in with a 2-run home run. And like the Cardinals, the first 2 runs for Milwaukee come on a long ball. Fielder's double started it. Ricky's home run puts the Brewers on the board.
Well, that ball kind of sunk down and into Weeks. And like Pujols in the first inning, just a shot out of here, no doubt about it, as soon as it left the bat.
Still nobody out as Jackson starts over. 2 balls and a strike on Jerry Hairston. Back up the middle, a bouncer backhanded by Punto, and a nice play, Nick Punto, for out number 1, ranging across the bag at second base. And the first out of this 4th inning, well done by the Cardinals second baseman.
Well, Jackson challenged him and paid for it. This was more like Ricky Weeks in the beginning of the year before he had that horrible accident at first base and injured his ankle.
Weeks, the all-star starter at second base for the National League. He was hurt shortly thereafter. As Betancourt swinging away on the first pitch.
I learned this. You do not want to be a pitcher and try to do high fives with some of these guys, whatever they're doing. Your forearm, you're knocking your forearm out of the game.
There's a potential injury waiting with some of the post-home run celebrations, you mean?
Yeah.
When you think about the forearm fives, it takes you right back to Tony La Russa's Oakland Athletics, right? The Bash brothers. As Betancourt with a base hit. Well, the red-hot Milwaukee shortstop keeps it going at the plate. 2 more hits tonight. He's 2 for 2 against Jackson. And now 4 hits in his last 4 at-bats in this series.
You know, Betancourt has been so much maligned for his inability to swing at strikes and just be this free swinger who'll swing at anything. But the Cardinals so far in this series have thrown him a lot of strikes, and he's taken advantage of that.
His manager was praising him last night in the postgame press conference, talking about the at-bats that Betancourt has given the Brewers. And of course, it was Betancourt's 2-run home run that capped off a 6-run inning last night.
Saw La Russa on that phone. He's not going to be caught like he was in yesterday's game. 25 pitches by Garcia, 6 runs in.
Got to finish the slider. And a couple sliders have been a little flat. He's got a good breaking ball to complement his slider. Fastball's on one plane. Slider has to be on a 45-degree angle. It's got to separate and turn away from the right-hander, and that one just stayed right there in the strike zone.
Fernando Salas, who has spent time as the Cardinal closer. One of the things Tony La Russa will do, and he has done it a lot during the regular season, actually did it here in Milwaukee. He'll bring on a closer type pitcher, whether it be Salas, Octavio Dotel. He'll bring him on early to get out of a jam and keep the crowd as quiet as he can. He'll use a late inning reliever early in a game if necessary, if the fire's burning hot. As we check in with Craig Sager down below. Craig.
Well, Brian, Ron was talking about Betancourt being maligned and criticized, especially for swinging at first pitch balls. I asked him last night how he handled the criticism, and in perfect English he smiled and said, "I don't understand English too well. I don't hear what they say."
That's right. A native of Cuba, Yunieski Betancourt. Let's put it this way, the praises are a lot easier to understand than all of the negative stuff. And Betancourt has been bounced around in his career a great deal. Began his big league career with Seattle. And then eventually to the Royals. He came over with Zach Greinke in the trade this offseason from Kansas City to Milwaukee. Look at the production in the last 4 games. And has 4 of those 8 hits in his last 4 plate appearances. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Jonathan Lucroy.
That's a great pitch right there, and I don't know if Yadi's just coming out to talk about the situation, but this is not your typical 8th-hole hitter now, because more than likely you're going to have a pinch hitter to come in. And this last pitch right here is a low fastball, real good pitch. Hoping to get the call. He holds it there, and
Cardinal bench getting hot.
Dave Duncan, the Cardinal pitching coach, yelling "let's go" to the home plate umpire Tim Timmons.
But if you throw a slider anywhere towards that pitch right there where it ended up, he's almost got a swing. You got him aggressive count. Try to get this slider on the outer half. See if you can induce not only a double play but a swing and a miss.
3-2 pitch, and Lucroy fouls it away. Came back with a fastball, 96-mile-an-hour fastball that time. The pitch in question here.
Boy, that's a pitch that boy, you get most of the time, and Duncan and the bench, of course, fighting for their pitcher Jackson to see if they can get that call from Timmons in the future.
And La Russa is still after the home plate umpire.
They're still barking at him.
Another payoff pitch from Jackson. And a bouncing ball to third. Freeze to second for one. And not in time at first. Jackson comes back, gets a significant out, the second out of the inning. And that will force the Brewers to send up a pinch hitter in this spot. And now Dave Duncan is on his way out to the mound.
Well, that's a great pitch right there. That slider down looked like a fastball long enough to where the count and the moment allowed the hitter to be aggressive. And I think what Duncan's going to talk about right here is with McGee, dead fastball hitter. You can get him almost on 3 consecutive sliders if you throw good ones.
Well, you have to talk to your pitcher when you have a hitter who had a 3 home run game against your pitcher.
That was Casey McGee against Edwin Jackson on August 3rd. This was Jackson's second start as a Cardinal. And Casey McGee, with his best day as a big leaguer, and hit a home run to right, to left, and to center field. Part of that 3 home run game. And Ron Renicky said McGee would be a factor in this game and in this series, and certainly didn't expect to have it come up this early in the ball game, but McGee will get an at-bat in the bottom of the 4th inning. He'll hit with 2 outs and a runner at first.
The reason I think you can throw 3 in a row, even if you go 2-0, the more the count dictates, the guy's going to get more aggressive trying to hit a 2-run homer.
Started with a breaking ball as we check in with Craig once again.
Well, I talked to McGee before the game about the disappointment of not starting. He said, hey, I'll take a pinch hit 3-run homer anytime. Well, he could get a 2-run pinch hit home run right here. This is a chance he's been waiting for off the bench.
Casey McGee is the starting third baseman most of the year. Had a rough season. A great pickup by Yadier Molina. Keeps that runner at first. Johnny Bench would be proud. Not many catchers make this play.
Well, I think Molina will tell you that maybe a little lazy on that play, of course, but that's a play that it came so quickly with that slider that he had to use the backhand.
The pick.
Tendency, and there's your 3 in a row breaking balls. The tendency after you throw a good one and a swing and miss, you try to make it better and then better. You really don't have to against this guy. If you execute on the outer half of the plate and get it from the knees in the strike zone, he's looking to pull. He's looking to hit the ball to left field. You can still stay stubborn with it right here.
He's also a guy that's been taken out of the starting lineup. You know he's going to be aggressive because he's trying to make a big and bold move.
Little half swing bouncer. Jackson right there, and the side is retired. Edwin Jackson comes back. He gets out of it, but a 2-run homer, Ricky Weeks. And the Brewers are on the board. It is 5-2, St. Louis.
The National League Championship Series on TBS is presented by the new Capital One Cash Card for the people who want 50% more cash. And brought to you in part by Nissan.
Back under the lights on a Monday night in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 5-2, the St. Louis Cardinals lead the Milwaukee Brewers in Game 2 of this National League Championship Series. New pitcher for Milwaukee. Ron Renicky going with a pinch hitter last inning for Sean Markham. It'll be Marco Estrada facing John Jay to start this 5th inning, a 5-2 Cardinal lead. And the numbers for Marco Estrada, who was the 6th starter for Milwaukee this year. They used only 6 all season, the fewest in the major leagues. He was the fill-in starter for Zach Greinke and Chris Narveson.
did a nice job. Fastball in the low 90s. Really good changeup, occasional curve. Changeup is his best pitch that he likes to go to.
So the Cardinals have chased the Brewers starter. Another disappointing start for a Milwaukee pitcher as Jay rips one down the right field line. That's going to go to the wall. John Jay on his way to second base, and he'll lead it off with a double. Another leadoff hit for the Cardinals. And moments ago, we spent a little time with Brewers manager Ron Renicky. Well, Ron, your Brewers finally give you a run, a 2-run home run by Ricky Weeks. Talk about going to the pinch hitter and that decision early in this game.
Well, it's a matchup with McGee against Jackson, and hoping with a guy on first base that he can drive one somewhere in a gap, or maybe get one up a little better than that.
Well, Ricky had 2 good at-bats yesterday, a walk and a line drive, and you got him back there in the lineup today, and another nice at-bat to get you on the board.
Yeah, it was important. We've got to get it some runs somewhere here to put a little pressure on him. See if we can get to Jackson and continue to get some guys on base, and hopefully we'll get another big hit from somebody.
And we appreciate Ron Renicky joining us between innings. And you have to feel for the Brewers. They know that the Cardinals are going to score runs. Ron Renicky knows his club is certainly capable of putting up big numbers, crooked numbers. But the question is, can you keep the Cardinals down? Albert Pujols has 4 RBIs tonight. He has been the big bat in the St. Louis lineup.
I'm a tiny bit surprised that they're pitching to Albert here, but the first pitch breaking ball, second pitch changeup out of the strike zone.
John Jay has done an incredible job getting on base in front of this, what I call traffic jam of hitters. You don't really get too much room for error in the next 3 batters.
And Pujols in the right center. That's going to get down and go to the wall. John Jay will score. Albert Pujols on his way to second. And it's an RBI double, and Pujols is still hot. That is his 5th RBI of the game, his 3rd hit. And he is racking up the total bases here already. That is 8 total bases for Albert Pujols.
Well, that's just the lack of execution by the pitcher Estrada and the catcher Lucroy. 2-0 fastball out over the plate to Pujols when he's sitting on a fastball. That's something that you just can't do in the postseason, John.
Again, as good as Albert is, you can get him out down. You cannot get him out up. And that's going to be the adjustment that these Brewers staff's going to have to make as they move on in this series.
6-2 St. Louis. 5 RBIs for Pujols, a career high in the postseason for Albert. What a prediction by his manager. Tony La Russa saying Pujols would have a big night, and he's having an even bigger night than his manager thought. Matt Holliday with Pujols at second.
You know, it's John, you were talking about this in the pregame when we went on air, and that is that occasionally as a pitcher you're taught your entire career to be aggressive, to go after hitters, but sometimes pitching around guys and the prudent walk can keep you in a game and stop you from giving up runs.
Yeah, especially when this team has led baseball in ground ball double plays. Matt Holliday does not have exactly all the speed that you'd want, but he has the power. What you do is you're basically picking your poison, and in this scenario you picked your poison wrong with Albert Pujols twice, and I think, you know, for the St. Louis Cardinals, it's the reason why they're here. The hitting depth that they have is apparent, and the pitchers are taking notice.
Well, you got to give a lot of credit to John Jay as well. 3 hits in this game in front of Pujols, and he has scored 3 runs. He scored half the runs the Cardinals have posted. John Jay doing a lot of ways as well. Remember, he had a bunt single in the first inning that preceded the 2-run home run by Pujols, and then it was a hit and run in the 3rd inning for Jay. He was aboard for Pujols' 2 RBI double, and he whistled a double down the right field line his last time up just a moment ago. 2-2 to Holliday. And a swing and a miss, a fastball right by him. Estrada picks up his first out. It is a strikeout on Matt Holliday. One gone in the 5th. Our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear has learned making tires that go the distance inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. And the Cardinals have been able to keep this big crowd quiet for the most part. They started early. 2 runs in the first, added 2 in the third. They've scored in every inning but the second inning. As Bergman on a shot right to fielder. He'll take it to the bag for out number 2. On the first pitch, Bergman hits one hard to Prince fielder. Pujols advances to third. 2 gone in the 5th inning now. Marco Estrada in for Sean Markham. Markham goes 4 innings, gives up 5 runs, and has now given up 12 earned runs in his 2 postseason starts and has not been able to get through the 5th inning yet.
A cross up there, as you saw Lucroy pointing his 2 fingers to his eyes behind the mask, saying, hey, watch the signs. I called for a different pitch there. And probably the only guy who can commiserate up at the plate, Yadier Molina.
That skips by Lucroy. Here comes Pujols. Play at the plate, and safe is Pujols. Right between the legs of Lucroy, and Albert Pujols heads up base running, scores the run, and it is 7-2 St. Louis. Well, he is doing it all here tonight.
Well, the thing about Albert is that he takes such a big lead down third base. He might not be the fastest guy, but has always been a good base runner. And Marco Estrada is lucky that he didn't get injured on this play. See how big of a lead he has? That's the only reason he can score in this ball. He just got 5 or 6 feet away from Lucroy as it goes through that 5-hole. He identifies it, gets to it, good toss, but the great lead and running of the bases by Pujols gets the Cardinals those 2 runs back.
I'll tell you who had the toughest play there was the umpire getting boxed out by Molina. He was in no man's land trying to get the bat out of the way of home plate. And meanwhile, he was pushing the umpire farther away from the plate to make that call.
Count stays at a ball and 2 strikes. Tim Timmons having to deal with some traffic around home plate.
You're not getting the rebound by me.
And the ball popped free, and
trying to throw him out of the way. Would have been a foul in basketball.
That was a good box out by Yadier Molina. Well, Molina doubled to start the 4th inning. The Cardinals with 7 runs on 9 hits already. Only in the 5th inning. Out to Ricky Weeks. And that'll retire the side, but St. Louis comes up with 2 more, and Albert Pujols right in the middle of it once again. He's driven in 5 tonight. 7-2 Cardinals. Celebrate America's game with Chevrolet. Upload a picture of your youth player and you could win tickets to the 2011 postseason among hundreds of other MLB prizes. Be a part of the Chevy Centennial celebration and enter for a chance to win at ChevyBaseball.com. Edwin Jackson back on the mound for the Cardinals and pitching with a 7-2 lead. Top of the order for Milwaukee coming up. Casey McGee made the final out of the 4th inning in a pinch hit roll, and now it's Corey Hart to start it. 3rd time through the batting order for Jackson. Offense continues to be the theme for these 2 teams. We saw 15 runs yesterday on 20 hits. And the Cardinals right back at it with 7 runs on 9 hits through the first 5 innings. The Brewers' 2 runs came on a 2-run home run by Ricky Weeks.
He's not missing by much. Those are pitches just off each end of the strike zone.
And Corey Hart draws the walk. There's been some activity behind home plate. We take you to inside tracks, and we take you back to the 4th inning with Jonathan Lucroy and Tim Timmons.
No man's land. Huh? It's in no man's land. It's in the box, but it's in fair territory. Corner of the box is in fair territory.
Getting a lesson from home plate umpire Tim Timmons. Had to battle with Yadier Molina to make a safe call at home plate with Pujols coming in the top of this frame. Jackson issues the leadoff walk. You wonder how long the leash will be for Tony La Russa in this bottom of the 5th.
Well, typically you don't throw over in a 7-2 game at first. That's coming from the dugout to give the bullpen a little extra time if needed.
La Russa was on the phone to the bullpen between innings. Nyjer Morgan after the leadoff walk. And he bounces one foul.
Tony La Russa, explaining yesterday's ball game, said Jaime Garcia had a little trouble early, then seemed like he had righted the ship and was pitching very well, but then 25 pitches later, no outs and 6 runs across. So certainly not going to let that happen again today.
There were 2 swings of the bat that produced 4 runs against Garcia yesterday. And 4 quick hits in the 5th inning. Well, this is the spot of the batting order where Milwaukee wants to do damage. Get the top 2 on. You have the dynamic duo and Braun and Fielder coming up.
You know, everybody in baseball, when they get a lead, they tell you, just imagine it's 1-0. Easier said than done. You can use this aggressiveness to your advantage, but you can also play into the hands of the other team if you start throwing balls and walking guys for no reason.
Two balls and a strike on Morgan.
There's good walks and there's bad walks. Yeah. And that leadoff walk right there has signaled to the bullpen and to Tony La Russa, I'm not letting him leak a little more than 1 or 2 hitters. Obviously the left-hander getting ready for Prince Fielder.
This will be pitch number 80 for Edwin Jackson. Behind in the count on the Brewers center fielder as Morgan lifts one in the air to center. John Jay settles under it for out number 1. And that buys him another hitter perhaps. Two pitchers up here in the booth cringing at the potential of this series, this LCS. Pitching and defense has always been thought of as what wins championships, and it still is, it still might, but offense is going to play a big factor in this National League Championship Series.
American League Championship Series too. They've got some great bashers over there, as we saw today.
We'll get used to it here in these first 2 games, because I'll tell you, game 3 is going to be a different story. Those 2 hurlers have been fantastic already in the postseason. That's Carpenter and Gallardo.
Yeah, they'll set up because Carpenter and Gallardo pitched in the 2 game 5s for their respective clubs. They'll come back in game 3 of the LCS, and then they'll be available to go game 7 if this series continues that far.
Gallardo went 6 innings in his start, and of course Carpenter with that great complete game shutout effort.
So here is Braun. Jackson will stay. 7-2 St. Louis, bottom of the 5th. Braun singled against Edwin Jackson in the 1st inning. Had a base hit right back up the middle. And then Jackson struck him out, part of a 3 strikeout inning in the 3rd. And those are Jackson's only 3 Ks of this game.
And we go back to what we were talking about before, guys. No pitches inside the Braun, and he has tremendous power middle of the plate away. He can hit that ball out to right center.
Braun to center field. That is well hit. Back is Jay, and he can't get it. And it bounces up and out. That'll be a ground rule double. And Corey Hart will be sent back to third base. So Braun hits it as hard as you can to center field. It's actually a bad break from Milwaukee. Most likely a triple and an RBI. Instead, it's a ground rule double. And it's still second and third.
Well, between Fielder's line drive yesterday and this one off the bat, like a howitzer off the bat of Braun, gets Jay turned around. He tries to dive to get that baseball, but it eludes him.
This is a great effort. Right off the bat, he knew the ball was going to be curving, and he took off, and as he turned back for the ball just curved just away from his outstretched arm. And great effort.
And part of the ground rules here, above that yellow line, once it hits above that on the bounce, it's a dead ball and a ground rule double. The fence is a few feet in from that batter's eye. And with Prince Fielder coming up, Tony La Russa is coming out. The Brewers pressing it again, and La Russa is going to make the call to the bullpen. So neither starter can get through the fifth inning. Markham goes 4. Edwin Jackson 4 1/3. A pitching change at Miller Park. Here comes the left-hander. We'll take a break.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent.
And tonight's pitching comparison is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, and the two starters unable to get through 5. Jackson just taken out for the left-hander Arthur Rhodes. Sean Markham gives up 5 runs in 4 innings.
You know, it's unusual, John, in a game like this in the regular season, Jackson automatically would have stayed in there for a few more batters, but these games are just too important for the Cardinals after dropping game 1.
Well, you got an interesting situation here, Brian. You got the lefty to face the lefty, but again, a base open. It's not imperative that you have to pitch to Prince Fielder here.
Well, a 7-2 Cardinal lead might affect the decision by La Russa, and the fact that he's got a lefty on to face Prince Fielder with a base open. A right-handed hitter is on deck, and Ricky Weeks. Matter of fact, a string of right-handed hitters coming up next. Arthur Rhodes, veteran left-hander. He was released by the Texas Rangers. His last outing for Texas was the last day of July, and then he went a couple of weeks in no man's land, didn't know where he was going to pitch. He actually decided, had an option to sign with the Cardinals, did so, made his first appearance for St. Louis on August 14th.
Well, he struggled this season in Texas. 2 seasons ago in Cincinnati, a brilliant season. Held on to that fastball a little too long.
Arthur Rhodes is 41 years of age. Had an ERA near 5 with the Texas Rangers. A little bit better with the Cardinals. A 4.15 earned run average with St. Louis. In 19 games. He was pitching a lot for a manager who likes to make a lot of pitching changes.
It's interesting watching Rhodes, the veteran. We saw a lot of talk. We saw Jackson thrown over. We saw the catcher going out. They were trying to give him as much time as he could to get loose, but that older body looks like it didn't get as loose as he wanted to.
Very surprised that we're not seeing the catcher stand up and hold his hand out here for the 4th pitch.
Fielder has been known to swing away 3-0. And he does swing away and fouls it back. Fielder doubled and scored in the 4th inning. Even down 5 runs, the Brewers still aggressive at the plate. First pitch swinging. 2 3-0 green lights in this game already.
I'd be shocked if this is a fastball here, Ron.
And a strike. Perfectly placed pitch by Arthur Rhodes. Right back in the count. It's 3-2 now on Fielder.
Well, I'm shocked.
Still?
Still. Great pitch on the outer half. Froze him. Got the benefit of the call. It's not the pitch Prince wanted anyways.
Now what does he give him?
I'm numb. I'm shocked.
Back in there with 2 fastballs, and that is outside for a ball. Went back to the fastball. 3 in a row from Arthur Rhodes. He walks Prince Fielder, and the bases are loaded for Milwaukee. And decision time for Tony La Russa. Ricky Weeks is coming up. A right-handed hitter. La Russa has Lance Lynn in his bullpen, and here comes the Cardinal skipper. And the point to the pen. Rhodes comes in to face Fielder. He walks him. And the Brewers are 1 swing away from tightening this one up. Another pitching change here in the 5th. Rookie Lance Lynn on his way in. We'll take a timeout. Seven to 2 St. Louis, but the Brewers have the bases loaded. The Cardinals are going through their bullpen here in the 5th. Tony La Russa went with Arthur Rhodes in relief of Edwin Jackson. He walks Prince Fielder, and now it's going to be the big, hard-throwing right-hander Lance Lynn, whom we saw yesterday when a scoreless inning yesterday. And he is back out there for La Russa to try to get through a mess in the 5th. Jackson the starter, 4 1/3. 2 of his runners are still out there. And it's going to be all-star second baseman Ricky Weeks.
Well, if there's been an Achilles heel in this lineup for the Brewers all season long, it's been this 5th spot where Weeks is hitting today. 223 average, was the 2nd worst in the National League. We're looking for production from this slot all season long.
Then got Ricky Weeks to bounce into a double play yesterday. And a bouncing ball. This is for Call. Shovels to second for 1, and it is in time for a double play. The Cardinals turn 2, and Lynn does it to Weeks again. Back-to-back games. St. Louis is out of the inning. Well, might have got a call at first base. Still 7-2 Cardinals. This National League Championship Series coverage on TBS is presented by the new Capital One Cash Card. Miller Park, Milwaukee, and we go to the 6th inning. And a big call over at first base, perhaps a game changer, as the Cardinals get a double play off the bat of Ricky Weeks to end the threat. Brewers leave 2. Marco Estrada is back out for his 2nd inning of work. And right before we went to break, it looked like Weeks on that replay, looked like he had beaten the throw from second base. And we'll give you multiple looks at it here in just a moment. But Lance Lynn on the first pitch to Ricky Weeks induces the double play ball as Freese takes a big cut and a miss. Freese is 0 for 2 tonight. Estrada gave up 2 runs in the 5th inning. Albert Pujols has had a huge night. 5 RBIs. A postseason career high for Albert Pujols. 5 RBIs on 3 hits. 2 doubles and a homer. And the count goes full to David Freese. Tony La Russa going with 3 different pitchers in the 5th inning. Jackson started it. Arthur Rhodes, then Lance Lynn with the double play. There was a call at strike 3. Estrada punches out David Freese. And let's take it back to the play, Ron, that ended the Brewer threat in the 5th.
When you're the first base umpire, you're listening for 2 sounds. You're listening for the ball in the glove, and you're listening for the foot of Weeks on the bag. If it goes in the glove, you hear that sound first, then the runner is out. In this case, it was not. The foot on the bag was first, and then the ball in the glove. Weeks should have been safe.
Sam Holbrook, the first base umpire.
This angle right here, you'll see it much plainer. Ball, foot on the bag, ball not in the glove yet as it short hops Pujols. That play's not even close.
It has to be so frustrating for Ricky Weeks. Very fast player. He injured his ankle in late July, stretching out toward first base, running through the bag. He just was unable to get there, according to Sam Holbrook. And that could be the big play of the ball game. You don't know how the inning would go after that. There still would have been 2 outs for the Cardinals, but a run would have been in, and the Brewers would have had 2 on.
The only confusion you had there, as I mentioned, the 2 sounds that the first base umpire looks for. There were 3 sounds really, because the ball hit in the dirt.
Off the end of the bat, Nick Punto into left center, and it's Braun who makes the catch for out number 2. We have seen 2 key double plays turned in this series already. The shoe was on the other foot yesterday with Albert Pujols at the plate. He bounced into a 5-4-3 double play in the 7th inning with the Cardinals threatening. And here tonight, it's Ricky Weeks with the bases loaded to end the inning. Ryan Theriot is going to pinch hit. Theriot began the year as the Cardinals shortstop. Cardinals are hoping to improve that position. That's why they went out and made the deal for Rafael Furcal. Theriot likely to stay into play second base, and he bunts right through it. 0-2 the count on Theriot.
You never know what events are going to transpire to put you in a position to try to get through a series. Lance Lynn put on the roster as an extra pitcher because Skip Schumacher out with the oblique injury. He's come up the best reliever so far for the Cardinals.
Got a double play yesterday and big double play tonight as Theriot rips one back up the middle. A 2-strike hit for Ryan Theriot.
As I said before, you never know what a walk and a good walk can do for you setting up that double play. You had second and third, and surprisingly they tried to pitch the fielder. He could have done some damage, but that walk allowed for that double play to get you out of the inning.
Well, it didn't look like Arthur Rhodes, certainly not brought in to pitch a round fielder. He was going right after him. And came after him with fastballs, but he walked him. La Russa made the next move, and it paid off. Top of the order, Rafael Furcal, who was 0 for 3 tonight. Marco Estrada came in for Sean Markham. Markham went 4, gave up 7 hits and 5 runs. Estrada gave up a pair in his first inning, last inning, an RBI double from Pujols, and then Pujols scored on a wild pitch. Furcal is hitless tonight. Had a couple of hits yesterday. Oh, 2 on Furcal. John Mozeliak, the Cardinal general manager, taking a flyer on a couple of deals. Furcal, he's a great player. He's an impact player, but the question was, could he stay healthy for a stretch run? He has been able to remain healthy after a injury-filled first half with the Dodgers.
But you know, Brian, now a little older player, maybe not playing all season long, has kept him fresh here for September and October.
Cardinals were searching for infielders. There's 6 different shortstops before finally settling on Rafael Furcal. And the same story over at third base and second base, a revolving door of infielders for Tony La Russa this year. 8 different third basemen, 8 different second basemen. You combine all of that inconsistency around the infield, you look at their bullpen scenario and all the leads they gave away, it didn't look like a postseason team, the St. Louis Cardinals. And what a great run they went on in September with a little help from the Atlanta Braves coming back to the pack. And here they are in the LCS.
Well, you go to spring training, you think you've got a team that you know can compete not only for your division title but for the postseason, and then you're delivered some news right out of the gate with Adam Wainwright, and then of course the year goes on and it doesn't go the way you want to with the other players. It seemed like a rash of injuries were occurring, and then they went out and made a lot of moves when they were still in it, and those moves didn't pay off right away. They certainly did down the stretch with the help of Atlanta not playing as well. St. Louis was there.
Estrada goes up the ladder. He strikes out for call. Side retired. A scoreless inning for the Cardinals. 7-2 Redbirds.
The National League Championship Series on TBS is brought to you by Bank of America, the official bank of Major League Baseball, and by new Southern Comfort Fiery Pepper, SoCo with a kick of Tabasco.
Sellout crowd at Miller Park, Milwaukee for Game 2 of this National League Championship Series. Tony La Russa going back to his bullpen. Lance Lynn threw one pitch. Got a double play to get out of the fifth, and now it's going to be Fernando Salas. And he'll face Jerry Hairston Jr. to start it in the sixth. 7-2 Cardinals. Getting a big night from Albert Pujols. He's driven in 5 of the 7 runs.
You see those saves for Salas. He got a lot of the opportunities after Ryan Franklin was let go by the Cardinals in this ever-changing closer role for the Cardinals all season long.
Jerry Hairston continues his hot hitting in the postseason. Has a hit tonight. He's 1 for 2. 3 hits now in this LCS. Now we send it down to Craig Sager.
Well, Jerry Harrison, one of those midseason acquisitions that playing a big role in the postseason. Ron Renicky says, I don't know what I can get from some of the younger guys, but I know what I'll get from Jerry Harrison. He's confident. He will not freak out. He wants to be up here with a game on the line. Perhaps it runs in the genes. He's a third-generation Harrison to play in the major leagues, following in the footsteps of his father and then his grandfather, Sam. Sam played in the Negro Leagues, was the first African-American to play for the White Sox. By the way, Jerry also had a brother, Scott, who was his teammate last year in San Diego.
Yes, Scott with the New York Mets. Jerry moving from the Nationals to the Brewers, and a legacy player. Jerry Hairston was a member of the New York Yankees club in '09 and won the World Series. Joe Girardi was talking about Jerry Hairston and an impact type player, versatile player you could use anywhere, and carries that ring proudly from the '09 World Series title.
You know, Cal Ripken was talking about his former teammate Jerry Hairston Jr. in the pregame. Very valuable, all the infield positions, and can play center field.
And hits that one a ton to center field. Back is Jay, and he's got it on the track for the first out of the 6th inning. Fernando Salas gets his first man in the 6th inning. Well, you can bet Tony La Russa and Dave Duncan looking for somebody to quiet things down here and give them some extended innings.
One thing about the postseason for your bullpen, you can manage a little differently sometimes because you have an off day tomorrow. Rest up those arms.
And the Cardinals added to their pitching core to start this LCS. They added a pitcher as Betancourt on the first pitch, and it's again John Jay for out number 2. 2 quick outs for Fernando Salas. Night 2 here in Milwaukee. The series will move to St. Louis Wednesday night. Game 3 right here on TBS. Games 3, 4, and 5 will be at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Jonathan Lucroy with 2 away. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night in the middle leg of this best-of-7 series. And Sunday and Monday to round it out if necessary back here in Milwaukee.
You got to feel for some of these starters who are not named Carpenter and Gallardo. They don't really possess a lot of swing and miss stuff. They really got to look at these videos and go, uh-oh, I got to stay away from here, got to stay away from there, and it got to be a little bit more perfect. And tonight, you could see that Markham just wasn't in rhythm right from the beginning. He's got a fast arm action, relies on cutting it, slowing it down, and spinning it. He's going to have to make some adjustments if he comes back and has the luxury to pitch again in what was really a high anxiety game with a lot of traffic on the bases.
Now Markham in his first 2 postseason starts has not been able to get through 5. That was the hallmark of this club, the Milwaukee Brewers. They're known as a terrific offensive team. A team that can do a lot of things, very balanced offensively, but pitching is really what separated the Brewers from the rest of the division. They outlasted the Cardinals, winning the division by 6 games in the Central Division through the regular season.
So John, if you're a finesse or control pitcher, really monitoring your adrenaline is the most important part.
It really is, and knowing which areas you have to stay out of. And I think sometimes pitchers are conditioned to think deep into the game. In a postseason game, you can't. You got to think 1 inning at a time, and you really got to make that inning be almost a 9th inning or your last inning type approach.
Fernando Salas strikes out Lucroy in a 3-up, 3-down inning for the Cardinals in the 6th. On our way to the 7th, St. Louis 7, Milwaukee 2. Now just a reminder, the American League Championship Series back at it tomorrow, and it'll be Colby Lewis for the Texas Rangers against Doug Fister for the Detroit Tigers. The Rangers lead that series 2-0. They got a big effort today, a walk-off grand slam homer from Nelson Cruz. Game 3 tomorrow on Fox. Joe Buck and Tim McCarver will have the call. We'll welcome Tim McCarver back. Hopefully successful heart procedure. I guess there's no such thing as a minor heart procedure, but it'll be good to have him back tomorrow for the continuation of the ALCS. Cameron Lowe is the new pitcher. Milwaukee sending out Lowe for Estrada, the 3rd pitcher used by Ron Renicky. And John Jay, for the first time tonight, has been retired. Now 3 for 4, 1 gone in the 7th. And here's a look at the state of the game, brought to you by State Farm. Ron, you talked about Albert Pujols in our open. His manager expected a big night, and boy, has he responded tonight.
Well, he's had a lot of big nights from Albert Pujols in his reign with the St. Louis Cardinals. I think one of the things you can't overlook is also his base running. That John Jay had 3 hits in front of him. He had that homerless streak end at 47 with his first inning home run. And one of the things that's really hurt Albert, we gave you some numbers in the last 23 games, only had 5 RBI, but he only had 12 people in scoring position on the bases in those 23 games. So it's kind of dried up a little for Albert in front of him. Certainly not tonight.
Pujols down the right field line. That is a fair ball. And it bounces out, a ground rule double. And Albert Pujols, a 4-hit game, another double. 10 total bases for Albert Pujols in this game. Boy, what a night. What a response.
Well, it just goes to show you when things are going good. Obviously, you don't have to put a perfect swing on. But one good game. Patience in a postseason. Everybody talks about he's slumping, he's this, and a guy's 1 for 11. We saw Beltre with Texas get hot with 3 home runs. It only takes one special game to rewrite everybody's thinking, and then he becomes the central focus again.
This is Albert's 2nd 4-hit game in the postseason, his 2nd 3-double game in the postseason.
And he has already set a postseason high for his career for RBIs in a game with 5. So he is at second base for Matt Holliday. Hitless tonight, 0 for 2 with a walk is Holliday. And he shoots one to right, a base hit. Pujols is going to try to score, and here comes a throw from Hart, a double clutch. And Pujols is in there. It's an RBI for Holliday. The Cardinals add to their lead. It is 8-2. I think Corey Hart was surprised that Pujols was waved home on that play.
I agree. I think he took it for granted. And in RBI situations, we saw it yesterday with Holiday. He will shoot that ball to the right side, and the Brewers continue to play him to pull, especially up the middle with Weeks. Big hole to the right side. And I think he just assumed that he wasn't going to run, double clutch, and threw it, spiked it right into the ground.
That was a conscious effort of Holiday to go that way. The whole plan was, I'm going to expose that side of the infield and make Milwaukee change their approach, as you said yesterday against
Bergman, and it's knocked down by Hairston. And a throw to second. Holiday is in there. Oh, so Lance Bergman on the first pitch slaps one to the opposite field. And that'll be a single for Bergman. 3 consecutive hits for the Cardinals.
Well, nice job by Bergman, just getting that out of the reach of Hairston, who takes a shot at Holiday, who held up at first base and was almost thrown out at second.
An accidental spike job here by Holiday, coming in, sliding, because not knowing if he was going to make it in time. Catches Betancourt just on the lake.
So 2 on. Still just 1 out, and here's Yadier Molina. One of the Cardinals hacking away early, aggressive in this 7th inning.
Lowe is a guy that was brought in a lot of circumstances for Ron Renicke's team to get ground balls. He's usually a ground ball pitcher, a double play machine.
Ball with a strike on Molina. Chance to add to it for St. Louis. Renicky had to go to his bullpen early. Markham went 4, Estrada 2, gave up a couple of runs. And now Lowe, the biggest opportunity for Milwaukee. They had back-to-back chances in the 4th and the 5th. They had 2 runs in the 4th on a 2-run homer by Weeks, and then a big double play. And that one's to the right side, and that might find a hole. It does, and here comes Holiday, and he'll score. 9-2 to throw to third base. Safe is the call. As the Cardinals are finding the holes here in the 7th, they've tacked 2 more on. Four consecutive hits for the Redbirds in the 7th inning.
Well, an excuse me swing there and off the end of the bat and gets in that hole there. Ricky Weeks, surprisingly, with the runner on second base, didn't dive for that ball to try to keep it in the infield to stop another run. See, as Ricky goes at this baseball, kind of lets it go by. With a dive, he could have kept the runner at third base.
See why they check to see if a guy swings so many times? Check swing produced a hit.
Now there's Molina, who drives in a run with his second hit. 9 runs on 14 hits. The heavy hitting Cardinals trying to steal a game here at Miller Park. Brewers with a home field advantage in this series, but the Cardinals can swipe it right back if they finish this one out tonight. David Freese still just 1 out, 1st and 3rd for St. Louis. And that one is slapped back up the middle. Freeze with a base hit. Another run will score. 10-2 Cardinals. 5 consecutive hits in the 7th inning. Oh, St. Louis putting this one away late. But what an offense the Cardinals bring to the table. It's interesting how this game works. You remember back in 09, St. Louis went into the postseason. And they had terrific years from Adam Wainwright and Chris Carpenter. They looked like the favorite. They looked like a team. I think I remember a guy on that team was in the bullpen a little bit, John Smoltz. But they looked like a team that had enough pitching to carry their way all the way through, and they were defeated in 09, knocked out. This was a team that had major question marks with their pitching, especially their late inning pitching. It's been their offense that's carried them.
Yeah, sometimes, Brian, it's just when you get hot. And they played so many important games in September. Remember their last World Championship in 2006, they only won 83 games during the regular season and turned that into their 10th title.
Cardinals were swept in the division series by the Dodgers. That was in 09. This is their second trip back to the postseason after their World Series winning year of 2006. Cardinals finished the season 22-9, while the Braves were losing 20 of their last 30 and able to make up 10.5 games in the final month and a week of the season to take the wild card. There's another base hit. Nick Punto with a single to center field. And everybody's moving up. St. Louis now leads it 11-2. With an exclamation point here at Miller Park.
Well, just a hanging breaking ball by Punto is in there mostly for his defense, but a couple of hits and a couple RBI tonight.
I say this time of the year you got to have a bad memory as St. Louis is preparing for what looks like another happy flight. Milwaukee is just basically, these are type of games, if you're going to lose, this is an easier one to forget, to be honest with you, because it's one of those things where everything went right for St. Louis, nothing went right for you. It's just a game, and this team will strap it back on as they look forward to put some runs on the play. You always want to get in a rhythm, but this game just went fast in the way of St. Louis.
Well, LaTroy Hawkins is loosening in the bullpen for Milwaukee. How about St. Louis tonight with runners in scoring position? 7 hits in 13 at bats.
Wow.
5 of them have come in this inning. 4 runs are in for the Cardinals.
See the catcher right there talking to him, said you really had some good stuff tonight. You can't tell because the results weren't as good, but you look at some of the hits, they weren't, other until lately, some of those balls that fell in the right field of the infield and ground balls.
So Cameron Lowe is out, and to the bullpen goes Ron Renicky. The Cardinals with 4 of the 7 still at it. They lead 11-2. Cardinals lead at 11-2. A lot of activity on the base paths here in the 7th. And stretching it out here. And our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear has learned making tires that go the distance inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven. Well, big crowd is hanging in here, but St. Louis has kept them quiet for the most part tonight. 11 runs on 16 hits. And the new pitcher for Milwaukee is LaTroy Hawkins. Well, John, he took a shot off the bat of Miguel Montero in game 2 of the LDS. Right on his pitching hand and his knuckles, and he's trying to get himself back together. Ron Renicky finally announced LaTroy Hawkins able to go here. And he will face Adrian Chambers, and we send it down to Craig Sager. What do you have, Craig?
Well, Chambers is probably the best athlete in the ballpark. He actually played football at Mississippi State. After leaving there, decided to try baseball. Hadn't played the game in 5 years. Bought a ticket for $100 on a bus and a tryout with the Cardinals, and was drafted in the 38th round. And here he is a couple years later in the postseason of the major leagues.
Had an impact hit in the regular season for the St. Louis Cardinals. Game-winning hit against the Phillies. Chambers getting his second plate appearance of this NLCS. Think about the draft and a wild road for Adrian Chambers. How about Albert Pujols? Every time you think about the draft, 1999, there were 401 players picked before Albert Pujols in 1999. And it was a quick rise to the big leagues for Albert Pujols. Think about guys like Mike Piazza. You just never know. That's the beauty of baseball. You make a pick, who knows where you're going to get major production. Certainly, his career could end right now. Pujols is Hall of Fame worthy, and a free agent at season's end. Who knows where he'll end up? Cardinals fans are hoping he stays in a St. Louis uniform. That is going to be the topic of discussion this offseason.
I really think whatever team goes on to the World Series and let's say they win it, I think their chances of retaining that player, in my opinion, become a little better.
Oh, better, right.
Comparing Pujols and Prince Fielder, you mean?
Yes.
Now the Texas Rangers have a big free agent as well, and C.J. Wilson, their ace. He'll hit the open market this offseason as well.
But I think of all the free agents that are out there, it's almost impossible for me to envision Pujols in another uniform. Just so closely associated with the community in St. Louis. I don't know if there's going to be that many players left that have a great career with just a Hall of Fame kind of career with just one team.
There's a strike call. Chambers is retired, the second out. 6 consecutive hits between the outs. The big free agents, the big first baseman, Albert Pujols and Prince Fielder. I figure Pujols will set the market. Fielder will certainly get a lot of suitors.
And I think the big thing in that graphic for us is the age, because Albert has not come out and said, but looking for a contract for the 8+ seasons, and that's something hard to deal with for any franchise.
That ball is hit well deep left center. Nyjer Morgan will run it down, and the side is retired, but the Cardinals do big damage. 6 straight hits. They score 4 runs, and it's 11-2 Cardinals.
Put your hands up and wave them in the air. Gotta get up, stand up, you just don't care. I and I got the supply, but when the man's up, fear ain't an option no more. It's time to man up. Put your hands up and wave them in the air. Gotta get up, stand up, you just don't care. I and I got the supply, but when the man's up, fear ain't an option no more. It's time to man up.
Game 2, National League Championship Series on TBS, and the Cardinals are flying high tonight. On the road, 11-2 is our score. Brian Anderson with John Smoltz and Ron Darling, and now you're starting to look ahead a little bit with the Cardinals in a 9-run lead. And Ron, for the Brewers, they'll have Giovanni Gallardo going in Game 3 on Wednesday. Chris Carpenter goes for the Cardinals. 2 questions. Can their ace come back and beat Carpenter? Can the Brewers win on the road?
Well, Gallardo's, yes, he can beat Carpenter. Maybe not the Carpenter we saw the last time in the 5th game against the Phillies, because he was just about perfect. But Gallardo has been outstanding for them. He's pitched well in the postseason, and really he's going to have to pitch well for this Brewers team to win this game on the road, because their other starting pitchers have really struggled. In the postseason, they've gone 22 2/3 innings and given up 29 runs. That's not going to make it.
But John, you talked about St. Louis and the run they were on at the end of the season. Obviously, you make it to the LCS, you're playing well, and the Brewers taking care of the Arizona Diamondbacks. But the Cardinals beat the Phillies. They know they can win on the road, and they came into a hostile environment here, having a lot of success tonight, a place they played pretty well this season.
Absolutely, and they just seem to play a little bit better when they know they're getting on a plane for some reason.
That's right. You mentioned the happy flight, which has been their mantra in their comeback and overtaking the Atlanta Braves.
Haven't seen any squirrels, though, here in Milwaukee. It's a squirrel-free ballpark, as Cardinals have made a couple of changes. Chambers stays in to play right. Mark Zepchinski will come on to pitch here in the home 7th.
I think you're going to see some squirrels in St. Louis, Brian.
Yes.
Absolutely.
There will be squirrel activity. The numbers on Zepchinski came with Jackson from the Blue Jays to the Cardinals. And that trade at the deadline, and Carlos Gomez off the bench to hit for Ron Renicki's Brewers. Game 3 will be Wednesday. Carpenter and Gallardo, the 2 aces. And both managers with a chance to use their aces twice in this series if it goes 7 games. Gallardo and Carpenter will go Game 3 and then Game 7 if necessary. Now the Rangers earlier today with a walk-off grand slam from Nelson Cruz to give Texas a 2-0 advantage. That series back in action tomorrow. Pujols shovels it to Zepchinski. And with a squirrel update, we check in with our squirrel correspondent Craig Sager.
Well, you talked about the squirrels, possibly the rally squirrel being back in St. Louis. Yes, we will see squirrels. And on top of that, the Cardinal players will be wearing T-shirts. They've had these printed since they last were there. They say, "Squirrels on the field and nuts in the dugout."
There's the Stan the Squirrel going across and making his presence known. That was an odd moment for the St. Louis Cardinals.
I thought the best comment was Roy Oswalt, who wanted a do-over of that pitch. Home plate umpire Angel Hernandez will not have any of it, said it was a ball. He said, how big does the animal have to be to get a do-over?
That has been an interesting topic to follow here. The squirrel, you've got beast mode here in Milwaukee after they have success from the Monsters Inc. movie. All these players so young, but a lot of young kids running around in the family room, and that was their favorite movie. And the dads, Corey Hart, one of them, started doing the beast mode. That squirrel coming across the field, we had to go to the umpire's manual to find out the rule on that. You know that if a batted or thrown ball strikes a bird, this is from the rule book, strikes a bird in flight or another animal, and a squirrel would be included in that. Ball is considered alive and in play. Same as if it had touched a bird or an animal. Every time I think about that squirrel running across, good thing it was a ground animal. I think about spring training with Randy Johnson and the bird that flew across to his end as Hart flies out. Out number 2. So 2 gone. It'll be Nyjer Morgan. You guys ever have any animal confrontations in all your years? Baseball years?
Think of it, I don't think so.
None for me, but always I think the most famous story, of course, always comes from towards the end of the 1969 season with the Cubs and the Mets chasing them down, and the Black Cat, of course, running in front of Ron Santo on the on-deck circle.
Amazing Mets.
Did have a little 7-minute delay because the Clydesdales, one of them got spooked on the field. They don't move when one of them gets spooked.
Stop down.
They work in unison.
Did it throw you off your routine, or?
Well, first, I wasn't paying attention coming out of the dugout. I didn't know they were even coming. They did the whole trek of the field. And so, yeah, I was caught off guard, and then there they are in left field, not moving.
John Smoltz was a Cardinal in '09. Interesting dynamic here with you two guys. Ron, you played for Tony La Russa, and John, you did as well in '09. Different teams. In different decades, of course. La Russa winning world championships with the Oakland A's and the St. Louis Cardinals. He and Sparky Anderson, the 2 managers that have won World Series titles. What have you seen from La Russa this season, you think, and compared to your playing days?
Well, I will say at this point in his career, his 33rd year in the major leagues, managing against Ron Renneke in his first year, is that he has a lot more patience, I think, through the course of the season, and I think you needed that this year. There's a team that lost some good players early in spring training, came out of the gates really slow. Their best player, Pujols, probably feeling the weight of free agency, got off to a little slow start also, and I think showing patience in his players and their talent came back to fruition for him in August and September. Of course, lots of help from the Atlanta Braves, but still they had to go out there and finish so strongly, and they did.
Ryan Braun with 2 away. Tony La Russa managed his 5,000th game against the Brewers back in June. He's certainly headed to the Hall of Fame. La Russa always says he's going to manage as long as Dave Duncan will be his pitching coach. He passes down a lot of credit to his coaching staff, especially his trusted pitching coach, Dave Duncan.
You know, there's so much that you have to do. I don't know if you agree with me, John. There's so much you have to do as a manager that you might not have had to do 30, 40 years ago, as far as, you know, managing young people that are making a lot of money, making sure that they stay on point. Things with the press now that you wouldn't have to have done a long, long time ago. And having a pitching coach that takes care of all the pitching makes your job much easier.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And you throw in that hashtag situation you've been talking about, Brian.
That's right.
And it's really a mess.
Bouncing ball over to Freeze, and there's the final out of the 7th inning. We're on our way to the 8th. Cardinals winning big in Milwaukee, 11-2. Well, game 3 of this best-of-7 championship series between the Cardinals and the Brewers will be Wednesday on TBS. The scene shifts to St. Louis, and what they know is baseball heaven. Busch Stadium. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern with MLB On Deck, presented by Chrysler. All St. Louis tonight, 11-2. Has been a steady attack. These will be the starting pitchers for Wednesday's game. The aces will match up. Giovanni Gallardo against Chris Carpenter. Gallardo pitching game 5, no decision in that clinching game for the Brewers. They won an extra innings while Carpenter dominated the Phillies and a 3-hit shutout, sending the Cardinals to the LCS. A former Cardinal, Chris Narveson, is on the mound for Milwaukee. Back to the bullpen goes Renicky. John Jay, a 3-hit game tonight. He's 3 for 4. Cardinals with 16 hits tonight, scoring those 11 runs. Gomez stays in to play center field. This was a 5-game series. A little more anxiety with this kind of game as it evens up, makes a swing game for game 3. But in a 7-game series, it plays a little differently, can settle in more, and it really challenges the depth of your roster. And I think the Brewers and the Cardinals, both talking to both managers, wanting to expose some of that depth. They both feel like they have enough depth in their pitching staff to last through it. As Jay into center, Gomez is there for out number 1. Let's send it to Atlanta and Matt Weiner. Matt.
All right, Brian, time for a game break presented by Bank of America. And for the first time since the 98-99 season, the NBA is canceling regular season games due to a work stoppage. The announcement made today, the first 2 weeks of the season are called off after negotiations of 7 hours failed to reach a new collective bargaining agreement. Guys.
Very disappointing news. Certainly disappointed here in Milwaukee, where the Bucks make their NBA home. Let's hope that gets resolved soon. Broken bat, and Pujols making a bid at a 5-hit game, finally retired, much to the delight of the fans here at Miller Park.
One of the things you saw right there, I know he broke his bat, but that pitch was down. The difference between that pitch and obviously the game's well in hand. Everything earlier in the game was up. Started in the first when trying to go in, which was probably the last time that pitcher went in. Every other hit was up over the plate. And this is the damage that he can do, but you can get him out down.
Under the glove of Narveson is Alan Craig, and that cannot be dug out by Fielder. So Alan Craig will reach, and the inning is extended.
As we look at some of these at bats, and certainly these Brewer pitchers will be looking at the same kind of video, you've got to stay out of that area right there. And then when they tried to get a fastball by him out over the plate, that didn't work. And certainly another pitch up, and that just made life a little miserable. A sinker up, not his best swing, but that's what happens when it's going good. Get the ball down. There's outs down. This guy's a great hitter, but you can't put the ball up on a tee for him.
And you know it's going good when you're able to bring a pitcher off the bench to hit. Kyle Loesch will pinch hit.
He's pinched hit in a different way before. Took the lineup card out to the umpires in the absence of Tony La Russa, the look-alike.
The very business-like Cardinals got a big moment of humor earlier this year. Kyle Loesch doing his best Tony La Russa impression. Even the manager had to laugh about that one. He looked just like him.
Said he was a little afraid, though, if Tony would find it as funny as he thought it was going to be.
Video proof of that moment. Was it Wrigley Field? And look, that looks like La Russa, doesn't it? No, it's Kyle Loesch.
A little nervous, he said, going out there.
That is a well-calculated making fun of a Hall of Fame manager as Narveson gets through the inning. Bottom of the 8th coming up. The bullpen spotlight brought to you by the Nissan Versa sedan. Innovation upsize, innovation for all. Mitchell Boggs on that list, the Cardinals closers. It has been a revolving door. Jason Mott has emerged as the Cardinal closer. Boggs had his chance in that role. Ton of blown saves. Only the Nationals had more blown saves than the St. Louis Cardinals this season. And despite that, they end up in the league championship series. Alan Craig will stay in after his at-bat takes over from Matt Holliday. Bottom of the 8th, 11-2 St. Louis. Prince Fielder will lead off for Milwaukee. The heavy-hitting Fielder who had a big home run last night. A 2-run homer that gave the Brewers the lead. It was a 9-6 win for Milwaukee last night. But what an answer tonight by the Cardinals. Started in the first inning on Albert Pujols' 2-run homer. Fielder, wow, lifts and separates. That is way gone. Prince Fielder with his second home run in as many games of this LCS. No doubter. It's 11-3 Cardinals.
You will not be.
The difference between Pujols and this guy right here is he can go get it down there. So can Albert. But you got a very small window. You got to get the ball down at his feet because he can golf it out of here with the best of.
Majestic home run by Fielder. Fielder had one of the longest home runs in the major leagues this year in Houston. So 4 postseason home runs. That sets a franchise record for Prince. Well, many of this sellout crowd staying around to see Fielder get one more glimpse of him, and boy, he doesn't disappoint.
You know what's interesting about Prince Fielder is that to have such a big swing, to have that kind of bat speed and still be under control. I mean, that's what makes him such a great hitter. Anyone can go up there and swing as hard as you can, but to be able to recognize pitches, put the bat on the ball, and have that, I don't know what you'd call it, controlled terror as he approaches that baseball.
Buggy whip.
Yeah, buggy whip is a good phrase. And even though it's so powerful, he gets to the ball so quickly with that bat.
Well, Fielder is more than just a power hitter. He is a big power hitter, but he's a guy that uses the opposite field well. He'll spray the ball when he needs to. He'll draw his walks. But when he hits them like that, you can admire him for a while.
And he's also one of those players that if he doesn't stay here in Milwaukee, he's just a fan favorite. You know, he just he does things in a big way, and fans appreciate that.
Big chopper out to short. The call takes care of Ricky Weeks for out number 1. Well, this is a big day in Milwaukee baseball franchise history. On this day, back in 1957, the anniversary of the Milwaukee Braves winning the '57 World Championship. The Braves beat the Yankees in 7 games in the '57 World Series, and it was Lou Burdett who was named the most valuable player. These 2 pitchers here can appreciate this effort. Lou Burdett, 3 games started, 3 complete games in the World Series, 2 shutouts, and had that complete game to beat Don Larson to win it all for the Milwaukee Braves of 1957. The late Lou Burdett. Hank Aaron had 3 home runs in the World Series. And that was a shock to the baseball world. Casey Stengel managing the Yankees, wondering where Milwaukee was, even though he had managed a Milwaukee minor league franchise, then known as the Brewers in the 40s. Just a little dig on the small town of Milwaukee.
He took a shot and it cost him.
Well, Milwaukee certainly has a significant place in baseball history just because of the Western expansion. It was the crowds in Milwaukee drawing over 2 million fans throughout the 50s that really spurred Western expansion. And the O'Malleys, Walter O'Malley with the Brooklyn Dodgers at the time, saw that, wow, if you could draw 2 million in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, what could you do in Los Angeles? Right. And of course in '58 the Dodgers and the Giants moving out west. For call, handles it, and Hairston retired. 2 outs here in the 8th inning. Now the Braves would leave Milwaukee. Brewers would enter as a major league franchise in 1970. Bud Selig, the commissioner of baseball, who was here at the ballpark tonight, part of the group that brought Major League Baseball back to Milwaukee. So interesting, this series, and you think back to '82 and the Sud series, and Cardinals have had plenty of postseason opportunities since 1982. The Brewers have had very few, just the 1 playoff appearance in 2008. That was as a wild card entrant. They were taken out by the Philadelphia Phillies in '08, the eventual world champs. Don't have many banners to fly here in Milwaukee. But they feel like they have a good team, and a team that may be built for a little while. They are likely to lose Prince Fielder, but they also have a couple of pitchers in Zach Greinke and Sean Markham that have another year left on their deal. They've signed Ryan Braun long term, as they have with Ricky Weeks and Corey Hart. A baseball renaissance in Wisconsin. So after the home run, Boggs retires the next 3, and we're on our way to the 9th. Cardinals rolling in Brewtown tonight. TBS next. Conan's got Modern Family's Ty Burrell. Don't miss it. Conan, all new next after MLB postseason, only on TBS. Woo! And a long night for the home team tonight. The St. Louis Cardinals have come in here, banged out 11 runs on 16 hits. They're trying to swipe this game 2 and turn the home field advantage in their favor. Taylor Green will take over at second base for Ricky Weeks. Chris Nardison trying to finish it out. And the free swinging Cardinals back at it. And Yadier Molina here in the 9th. Rangers and the Tigers, game 3 tomorrow on Fox. In the American League Championship Series, the Brewers and the Cardinals back at it Wednesday for Game 3 at Busch Stadium. Well, you know the crowd will be rocking there. Some of the best fans in all of baseball. And even the most diehard of Cardinal fans couldn't have expected this kind of finish to a season for St. Louis around late August.
The Cardinals, most storied franchise in the National League, just finished their 120th regular season. World Championships, trying to get their 11th. And really, whenever you're the away team, you just try to, when you open up on the road, try to steal one of the 2 games, and they've done that.
In the air, center field. Carlos Gomez eases back, and he'll make the play for the out. One away in the 9th inning. Well, this started with a bang tonight. Albert Pujols with a 2-run homer. Cardinals scoring early and often. They've only been held scoreless in 3 innings so far. And you start to map this out. The Cardinals starter, Edwin Jackson, went 4 1/3 innings. The guy who could get the win in tonight's game is Lance Lynn. He threw 1 pitch. Got a double play when the Brewers had the bases loaded in the 5th.
Thought that safe call at first base was going to be a big play. Did not end up being that way, of course, with this vaunted offense for the Cardinals. Led the National League in batting average, on base percentage, scored the most runs.
Now both of these teams will fly out after the game tonight. They'll have a workout tomorrow. And then back at it Wednesday. Freeze into right. Back is Corey Hart. That ball's well hit. Got a chance, and it goes. David Freese continues with the power bat. A 3-run homer last night. A solo shot here in the 9th inning tonight.
And this was not a bad pitch. This pitch was down. Freese right now probably has as much power to right field as any right-handed hitter in the National League. Not a bad pitch. The ball is down. Kind of golfs it over that right field fence. St. Louis native having a nice postseason.
So much opposite field power. His home run yesterday was in the bullpen in right center. Gerald Laird is the pinch hitter for the Cardinals. A lot of questions about Freese. How would he come back? He had ankle surgery last year and then had a fractured left hand in May. Hand injuries and hitters. It's not a good combination. But he returned to the lineup in late June and stabilized third base, hitting with some power. Cardinals got some good news earlier today as well. Adam Wainwright, who John referenced, out with a Tommy John surgery in spring training. He actually threw a side session today. Has to be inspiring on some levels for the Cardinals to see Adam Wainwright returning back to health. As Chris Narveson strikes out Laird. And instead of doing it somewhere in Florida, he gets to do it with his club in the postseason, a side session under the watchful eye of Dave Duncan.
Well, he might have been out all season long, but he is thought of so highly on that team that they just want him to be around to, you know, pick up any little thing that might help their pitching staff.
He was the man on the mound for the final out in 06, pitching out of the bullpen that year for the Cardinals.
You think about it, really an incredible career, being traded from the Braves, going over and filling in and getting that save, and then going right into the rotation and having 2 of the best years. You got probably knocked out by your teammate in some of those Cy Young votes. Could have won the Cy Young, but a blow to the Cardinals early on. They're here, but the future looks good too when Adam comes back.
He should be able to make it back as Narveson strikes out. Adron Chambers to the bottom of the ninth. Last call for Milwaukee. 12-3 Cardinals. This National League Championship Series coverage on TBS has been presented by the new Capital One Cash Card. And winding it down here at Miller Park, all Cardinals tonight. 12-3 is our score. St. Louis has the lead on 17 hits. Boy, they have put it on. Brewer pitching in this game. Jason Mott is the pitcher. Marcotte is the hitter. A lot of changes in this game as we wind it up. Marcotte hitting in the spot occupied by Jonathan Lucroy. And Jason Mott, the Cardinal closer, getting his first work with a day off tomorrow. Good chance to get him in. Well, Mott could play a big role. Certainly the closer's role is significant in the postseason. Cardinals have been searching all year for a closer, but maybe they have settled on one in Jason Mott, who's done a nice job. Converted catcher with a great arm. Now starting to mold his way into a pitcher at the major league level as opposed to just a thrower.
Not only that, he can grow a beard in less than 12 hours.
We might have grown a beard here tonight.
Gerald Laird is the new catcher. A lot of changes for Tony La Russa. Actually have Yadier Molina playing first base now as Pujols has been taken out. .99-mile-an-hour fastball. Descalso is the new second baseman. The Brewers' best chance was the fifth inning. They had the bases loaded. And a double play wiped out the inning. Oh, look at this play for call to throw to first, and Molina digs one out. Great on both ends. Wow, Rafael for call and a pick by Yadier Molina.
Got the whole bench laughing. If he needed anyone to pick something out of the dirt, why not Molina? Great play here by Furcal. Going to his right, bounces this throw in between hop and made it look easy.
Great hands. He made a play just like that behind the plate earlier tonight. 23 career games at first base, only 2 this year for Molina. One of these days down the road you could see Molina ending up as a first baseman when the knees go. A gold glove is a gold glove, whether it's a catcher's mitt or a first baseman's glove. Well done by Yadier Molina. Carlos Gomez with one away. There'll be 12 runs tonight for St. Louis. Ties for the second most in their franchise history in the postseason. 17 hits, also the second most. And Albert Pujols with his 14th career postseason home run.
Yeah, he had been tied with Jim Edmonds at 13. Now has it all to himself.
If you're wondering what the most was, it was the Sud series that we have referenced. The Cardinals in 1982 in the World Series against Milwaukee scored 13 runs in Game 6 of that World Series. They beat Don Sutton that day. And then the Cardinals would win Game 7. World champs 1982. So making yet another connection. 2011 and 1982. Has John left? Is he still here?
Oh yeah, he's here.
Oh, there he is.
Almost caught that foul ball.
I was worried because you almost fell out of the booth.
I called
going
it
after a foul ball.
I told you it was going to happen.
Checking in with your shagging abilities back in your playing days.
I've seen you with the ball back to the booth. It's not your strength.
That's all right. I'm making adjustments.
I was worried. I thought you might have pulled something there. Back in the back, walking it out. Looking forward to our trip to St. Louis. We're on the cruiser, the John Smoltz cruiser, after the game tonight.
Going to be tweeting all the way home.
Yeah. Got your hashtag all set up?
I'm a tweeting fool now.
Fly ball to right. Chambers will make the call. And there is out number 2. Now, if John had any pull, Ron, we could take the blimp to St. Louis, but instead we're going on the ground.
Okay.
Our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear has learned, making tires that go the distance, inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven.
I know it looks like there's a lot of room in there, Brian, but there really isn't.
It's a 2-seater?
No, but golf clubs take up a lot of room quickly in those things.
Your threesome's full. Well, with all of the intensity of last night's game 1, this hasn't had much to offer. Cardinals stretched it out early, had a 7-2 lead in the 5th inning. The Brewers had a threat going in the 5th. It was wiped out with a double play. Cardinals with 4 runs in the 7th. They added 1 in the 9th. And making it a laugher here in Milwaukee. Fly ball deep right. That is going to stay in the park. Chambers makes a catch. And that is that. The St. Louis Cardinals have come into Miller Park and picked up a big road win. And it's possible for the Cardinals not to have to return here. If they win the next 3 at home, they'll be moving on to the World Series. So the Cardinals get a Game 2 victory. And a 12-3 final score tonight. And Ron, you talked about it from the jump today. The offenses for these two teams, their signature all season. It was Braun and Fielder last night. You were looking for Albert Pujols. His manager was looking for him. He delivered in a big way tonight.
Boy, he did, with a 4-hit game, a home run, 3 doubles. Drove in 5 runs. Just the kind of game you need from your superstars. You get into these games sometimes, you just want your best players to come up big and kind of carry you on your back, and that's what Pujols did tonight.
Albert Pujols ties a career high in the postseason with 5 RBIs. Just a reminder, stay tuned for Inside MLB presented by Captain Morgan. Matt, Cal, Eck, and Boomer all standing by. They'll bring you highlights of today's games. Had a thriller in the American League Championship Series today with the Rangers and the Tigers. Plenty of post-game analysis from this one as well. And they're all standing by in our studios in Atlanta. The post-game show, Inside MLB, presented by Captain Morgan.
Well, one of the things that you saw today from the pitching end, we talked about it in the beginning, and not too many mistakes did either pitcher get away with.
Yeah.
And there was too many mistakes early on against the crucial people, and sometimes it's the lack of pitching around somebody in this type lineup that could create some damage. And certainly, you know, John Jay, give him credit, got 3 hits, got on before Pujols, and Pujols delivered.
Now we're staying on the air here, trying to deliver you an interview with Albert Pujols. Craig Sager is efforting that as Pujols comes up with a 4-hit game today, and the Cardinals the second most runs in their postseason history with 12 runs. And Albert was close to a 5-hit game, but it was started with a 2-run home run in the 1st inning. Pujols' first home run in his last 14 postseason games. He doubled in a pair in the 3rd inning, had an RBI double in the 5th inning, and then he capped it off with a double down the right field line in the 7th. That was a ground rule double. 10 total bases tonight for Albert Pujols, and his best night in the postseason so far this year. Pujols a career high with 5 runs batted in. Well, the Brewers certainly have their questions in their pitching staff. Giovanni Gallardo has been terrific, but the others have not for the Milwaukee Brewers. And now they'll turn the ball over to Gallardo, who gets the matchup against Chris Carpenter for Game 3 on Wednesday. And a matchup of aces, John.
Well, it's going to be a much different pitched game, and certainly I don't think you can expect a 1 or 2 run game with these lineups, but these two pitchers command the strike zone, have swing and miss stuff, and they will certainly keep the barrel of the bat not so much in play with where they throw their pitches.
Well, we're being told we'll hear from Albert Pujols in our post-game show. He will not come out for our live broadcast, but you can bet we'll track him down in the clubhouse in just a moment here as we wrap it up from Milwaukee. The Cardinals 12-3 winners over the Milwaukee Brewers. Now be sure to tune in Wednesday on TBS for Game 3 of the Brewers and the Cardinals series. Coverage begins 7:30 p.m. Eastern with MLB On Deck, presented by Chrysler. For Ron Darling, John Smoltz, Craig Sager, and the rest of our crew, I'm Brian Anderson saying good night from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. TBS is your exclusive home for the National League Championship Series. Now stay tuned for Inside MLB, presented by Captain Morgan. Remember to drink responsibly.
And welcome inside our Atlanta TBS postseason studios here. Matt, Eck, Boomer, and Kyle, after a dominant Cardinal win, ties up this NLCS at a game apiece. Albert Pujols, whose lack of production this postseason had been fairly conspicuous, pops off with a big game, and we've got a Game 3 to break the 1-1 tie coming up Wednesday from St. Louis. More Inside MLB right after this.
The National League Championship Series on TBS is brought to you by Pepsi Max. 0 calories, maximum Pepsi taste. By State Farm. State Farm agents are there when you need them. Find an agent or get a quote at statefarm.com. By Gatorade. Prime, perform, recover. And now compare new and used cars side by side at autotrader.com.
Inside MLB, presented by Captain Morgan, is up and running in the wake of a lopsided Cardinal win to even up the National League Championship Series at a game apiece. And now, at least theoretically, the Cardinals could end it in St. Louis with 3 straight at Busch Stadium coming up starting on Wednesday. Dennis Eckersley, David Wells, Cal Ripken Jr. I'm Matt. That's Miller Park. Roof open for Game 2 as it was for Game 1 of the NLCS. Brewers fans hoping to take a 2-0 lead. Those hopes were fairly quickly challenged by Albert Pujols. Pulls that 1-1 pitch foul but deep. This one will be fair.
This is the first of what is yet to come on what a great night by Pujols. Makes a statement in the first inning, 2-run bomb.
2-0
away from that spot.
Markham.
Nigel's the energy guy, and he was looking to infuse a little energy in by making that diving play. Couldn't quite come up with it, and Edwin Jackson's on first base.
And the Cardinals have a man on.
So the pitcher's on.
As we check in with Matt.
Pujols up again. And Morgan can't collect this one.
That's just a rope off the center field wall. I mean, the guy gets extension.
Just amazing, the pitches that he's getting to hit. And you see this ball, it just got out there too quickly for Morgan. You kind of say when he first said he should have caught that ball, but it was there too quick.
It's a 2-run double.
Off the end of the bat, Weeks lays out.
Ricky Weeks makes a nice play here. Diving stop on Lance Berkman to minimize the damage, but it's already 4-0 St. Louis. Bottom third, Jackson.
I guess that's the way you pitch to Braun. Hope he swings at something nasty in the dirt. Got him out one time.
He strikes out the side in the third. 4th inning, it's Weeks. High, deep, and into the people for a 2-run shot. Brewers are back in this. Bernie's down the slide, and it's a 5-2 game. 5th inning, Marco Estrada on to relieve Markham in the 5th. Didn't matter to Pujols.
Once again, high fastball up out over the plate. He does damage again, drives in his 5th run of the night.
Talk about feeling comfortable at the plate tonight.
That man sure did. And he was over the base paths as well, and when Estrada sends that one wild, gets through Lucroy, Pujols is coming home, and he's safe at the plate. Cardinals up 7-2.
He just got a great jump over there at third. He's not a speedy guy, but he just jumped right away, got a good read.
He wasn't going to be denied getting a home plate, that's for sure.
Braun has,
late slide.
Braun has been the story of this series.
You know, Tony doesn't wait long tonight, not after blowing that 5-2 lead yesterday, and he gets a big double play ball from a rookie, Lance Lynn, on a breaking ball to Weeks. Weeks looks safe at first base.
That was a big play because even though they're down 7-2, with that explosive sort of offense, you still felt like they were in the game. Big out call at first base.
Only pitch of the night for Lynn, who winds up getting the win in this game. Pujols gets his 4th knock of the night there. It's a ground rule double to right.
That wasn't one of the rockets that went off the wall, but
no.
That's a double nonetheless.
And then Matt Holliday leaks one through the right side. Pujols is going to score.
And they just put this game away. It was like the hit parade.
One positive note, the 1-2 punch is swinging the bat pretty well, and that's the second one of the 1-2 punch right there with a long home run. So at least they got that going for him.
Fielder with the bomb. Too little, too late.
This is some unbelievable power right here.
And the Cards get it back because David Freese goes yard. Opposite field shot off the end of the bat.
Just think if he keeps that up in St. Louis. Hometown kid?
Absolutely. Pujols goes 4 for 5, drives in 5, scores 3. John Jay, 3 for 5, scored 3 runs ahead of him, and the Cards rack up 17 hits overall, the 3rd most ever in a National League Championship Series, and the most by a Cardinal team in the postseason since 1946. Bottom line, series tied 1-1.
Well, we'd have to flip-flop. The only way to do that is flip-flopping Wolf with him. And you need to decide who pitches better where. Whoever goes the second game probably is going to get 2 games in. So that's the decision, whether to flip-flop our rotation, because this keeps this online if we stay with what we've been doing. And if we flip-flop it, you're taking guys out of their rotation, and then you're giving Wolf 2 games and Markham 1.
Albert Pujols with a 4-hit night becomes just the 3rd player in big league history to have 2 4-hit games in a single postseason, joining George Brett and Robin Yount. And that coming in, you know, he'd only 1 RBI in the postseason. He was on a 12-game homerless streak, and suddenly he breaks out. Take us through the at-bat there early on.
Well, we said in the pregame that about Markham's fastball, right? He had to be careful with his fastball, and right away Albert makes a statement in the first inning, his first at-bat, and you think he's going to sitting on something soft, because that's pretty much what Markham features. He just throws him a fastball just for show, the first pitch, and there he goes to his slider down and away, and next pitch changeup, and he was absolutely all over this ball, hits this ball deep into the second deck. He got lucky, got away with that. Next, the following pitch, he tries to slip a piece of cheese by him, and it is tired cheese, and it ends up in the second deck. And this is a major statement on the Cardinals to start this ball game off 2-0. This was like a football game tonight, you know, where you quiet the crowd. They dropped a 7th spot, and they did not stop. And they gave him a little sniff there in the 5th inning. Tony went to the bullpen right away to quiet that, and that's exactly what happened tonight.
You know, there's a lot of talk about what kind of pitching wins in the postseason. Power pitching wins in the postseason because you have a margin for error if you don't have your control. Sean Markham uses his fastball effectively, but he has to be perfect with it. And there it is again, trying to sneak the cheese with 2 strikes on him at 89 miles an hour. That's not enough cheese in that location to get past, and he gives up a double. Later on, again, he has 2 strikes, 2-2 count, tries to get in there with a fastball again, 87 miles an hour. It's not enough. It's got to be located a little bit better inside to get him to jam, but instead it's a double down left field line. And it kind of takes us back to another play. Fastball, he tried to sneak the cheese on the last series. Goldschmidt throws his glove in the air. He knows he didn't locate that one right, and gives up a big grand slam home run right there. So he has to be perfect. He can use his fastball because his off-speed pitches will set that up, but he has to make better pitches with that fastball.
He hasn't got sneaky cheese. It's not sneaky at all. I mean,
Not
it's
fooling
right by
nobody.
him.
I believe it's tired cheese.
That's tired cheese. It's not
tired
sneaky.
cheese, not sneaky cheese.
Yes.
Know your cheeses at home.
Yes.
You know, we've seen some slugfest, though, in the postseason, and there are opportunities for teams to come back. The Brewers had a chance, such as it was in the 5th inning.
Well, they did, but I mean, you got to capitalize. When you have an opportunity right there, a bad call from the umpire really changes the game right there, but there's nothing you can do about it. You try to rebound the next inning, but it just never happened for the Milwaukee Brewers, you know, and you see right here, Arthur Rhodes, this is a key at bat here for a pinch fielder. You know, he has an opportunity, but he's a patient guy. He knows he's faced Arthur Rhodes a few times, has some success against him. But you know what? Arthur loses them, and he pitches away. But he respected his power right there, and that's something that happens. And then you get this. A one-pitch double play, pitcher's best friend, and that just kind of dropped the momentum of the game. And a one-pitch, that's called a vulture right there. Vulture with the best of them.
Exactly.
One-pitch vulture, he gets the W, and that's what.
And replay seemed to indicate that Weeks was safe on the back end of that.
It's really interesting, though. Tony started the matchup game in the 5th inning tonight, you know, and normally you don't bring Arthur Rhodes in the 5th. Normally that's the 6th or 7th. Right. But that's playoff baseball. The matchups start a little bit early. I'm sure Edwin Jackson would have been mad during the regular season if he'd have been pulled at a 7-2 lead.
What's amazing how these starters are not going but 4 innings, 3-4 innings. There's only a couple guys that have done it. Right. And I mean, these guys have to get better because as much as they're using their bullpen right now, if these next guys don't go deep in the game, those guys are going to be spent.
Well, the managers just don't give them any slack at all in these playoff games.
Well, again, you expand the roles of the relievers, but you can only expand it so much. So, I mean, you do have some off days, you do get some rest, but you got to be careful with that. Somebody's got to get you to the 6th or 7th.
And, of course, the Cards gave them a huge margin for error with 12 runs, second highest scoring postseason game in Cardinals history. Coming up, Game 2 of the ALCS, an unprecedented finish for the Texas Rangers. Details coming up.